Going on, Chicago, and welcome to another edition of the Barely There podcast. Probably not used to seeing my face on a Wednesday, guys. I am filling in for Sean. He is enjoying himself on a vacation. He will be back next week, but I'm happy to fill in. I'm excited to do this show with Jay. The first time I'm working with you. How you doing, Jay?
You know what? I'm popping my Brandon cherry today. So I know you've probably popped a lot in your lifetime. I guarantee I'm going to be the best. But yeah, looking forward to talking to you,
Yeah,
buddy.
me as well, man. It's gonna be fun. I like to switch up the personnel every once in a while. Kyle's here as well as always on a Wednesday night. How you feeling, Kyle?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. Ready to get this thing rolling.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic for me. You guys do a lot of numbers on this show, on these Wednesday shows, a lot of stats, a lot of fantasy stuff, a lot of betting stuff. So I'm excited to do that. You guys know I love fantasy as much as the next guy. And yeah, that's what this show is going to be tonight, guys. We're going to dive into the Chicago Bears 2025 fantasy football outlook and compare the players' ADP from last year to this year and how we feel they might fall in line with that. All that and more after this. Once again, thank you for joining us, everybody. This is the Barely There podcast presented by the 4-Star Chicago Sports, guys. I am here with Kyle and Sean. We're going to start diving into some Chicago Bears fantasy projections and ADP. And I want to start already by saying thank you, Bruce. Bruce is already in the chat, guys. Let's say what up to Bruce. Bruce, what up?
What's up,
Bear down.
Bruce?
What's going on? Breaking news, Bruce.
So where you guys
He's
want to
having
start?
car trouble today. I hope it works out for him.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Bruce. Oh yeah, it's a Jeep, man. It's a Jeep. You never know. But guys, let's go ahead and start with the man, the legend, Caleb Williams, quarterbacks, obviously, and I do think Caleb Williams has the potential to fall the highest at the position on the Chicago Bears offense when it comes to fantasy football. But Kyle, let's start with you. Caleb Williams, what is his outlook? Is this a top 10 player? What's his ADP, and can he achieve it this year with Ben Johnson running this offense now?
Well, Brennan, basically, I looked at Yahoo and I used half-point PPR for all my rankings. Caleb Williams was ranked at QB 13 and 90 overall. Last year, he finished as QB 16. I expect him to be a lot better this season than he was last season. He was ranked in between Brock Purdy at 12 and Justin Herbert at 14. His 2024 stats, he finished with 3,541 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a QBR of 46.7. He had 81 rushing attempts for 489 yards and 6 passing touchdowns. His Yahoo projections are pretty crappy, man. He had 340 completions out of 520 attempts, 3,595 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. I like the high touchdown, low interception ratio, but I expect all those numbers to be better this season. He also had him at 77 rushing attempts for 485 yards and a touchdown. I personally believe that Caleb Williams is definitely going to make the top 10 for fantasy quarterbacks in any, whether you do standard, half-point PPR, point per reception, it doesn't matter. My projections for him in 2025 are 4,318 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and a QBR of 67.1. I also have him rushing 82 times for 515 yards, 6.2 yards per rush for 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to finish probably around 6 or 7, Brennan. But, I mean, obviously it remains to be seen. There is going to be a learning curve for Caleb Williams in this offense with Ben Johnson here and this brand new scheme. He's going to play a lot under center, something he's never really done in his entire life. But, yeah, I think Yahoo's got him way too low. I looked at CBS. I looked at ESPN. They all got him around the same spot, like 10 to 15, somewhere in there. But I think they're just kind of playing it safe. But when you look at – because if you I mean, Jason, you correct me if I'm wrong, but when I looked at all these projections, and I'm talking about everybody, man. I'm talking about DJ Moore. I'm talking about DeAndre Swift, Caleb Williams, from Odunze. Even the players on other teams, like I was looking at A.J. Brown, I looked at some of the other receivers, running backs, they play everybody safe. I mean, they got Saquon Barkley at like 1,500 rushing yards. Like that guy's going to be near 2,000, no doubt about it. So it's hard to determine where I would rank him in the ADP for Yahoo because I'd move all those guys' stats up, but I would still put him around 6 or 7.
And in regards to that, Kyle, you notice early in the season, the projections for like a Saquon Barkley is like 15.9 points. And then by like week 8, it's like 27 points
Oh yeah,
projected every
they
week
definitely
for
adjust. But
Saquon Barkley.
and they do this every year when they do these preseason rankings. They just play it safe on. They go like moderate on every single player in there. But if like I think they had AJ Brown at like I don't know, Jason, maybe you remember. I think I looked at it. It was 1,014 yards. Like AJ Brown's going to have more than 1,100 unless he gets hurt. Unless they're projecting he gets hurt. But if you're just projecting everybody's healthy for 17 games. That guy is gonna. Has he ever finished with less than 1,300 yards in his career?
I don't.
I don't
you
think
see
so.
Philadelphia getting worse or better? Like I feel like they lost half their defense, but somehow got better. Their offensive line is still great. They still have like, dude, they're probably going to win the Super Bowl again. Like, you can't tell me they're not going to at least do what they did this year. I mean, they kind of rolled through some people in the playoffs. It might be a little bit harder this year, but damn, dude, it's Philadelphia.
All the projections are really low, man. But yeah, I mean, obviously. If you adjusted it to what I think like Brendan, like you said, after a couple of weeks, once these guys start throwing 300-yard games and stuff, they start to adjust it. If you adjust it, I still believe that Yahoo would have Caleb Williams. They would still be a little bit on the shy side for me personally. I think they'd be a little too moderate. I think Caleb Williams is going to be the first 4,000-yard passer of Chicago Bears history. And if not 30 touchdowns, like maybe he won't get that, finally get the Bears quarterback over the hump of never throwing 30 touchdowns. I think he'll be damn close. I mean, you're talking 27, 28, 29, somewhere in there. But yeah, I have him at quarterback 7. If you asked me today, I'd say he's QB 7 finishing the season. Obviously, Joe Burrow's going to be ranked ahead of him. Josh Allen's going to be ranked ahead of him. Patrick Mahomes will probably be ranked ahead of him because I think Patrick Mahomes is probably going to have a really good season. I think this is one of the best offensive units Patrick Mahomes ever had around him. And then you have your Lamar Jacksons, the rest of those guys, man. But the guys who are consistently in the top 5 are still going to be there. But I think Caleb will be right on that outside of that top 5 looking in for sure. I think you're going to start to see the development of Caleb. He's going to start to take that next step, and you're going to watch it this season. Jason?
Listen, he was QB 17 in yardage last year, right? On what we can all agree upon was not a good offense when they had a plan in place. And then when they fired their coaches, it was still crappy anyways. So, for him to do that basically on his own is kind of ridiculous. I would expect his whole stat line to go up, even his interceptions, because he's probably going to throw the ball more and he's going to take some more chances, which is fine. But let's put it this way. His biggest knock on him is his EPA, which he was last. If he can somehow just get to a dead even EPA, he was like minus 68 or something ridiculous, dead last in the league. So if he gets to about even, which is where Bo Nix was, he could have a very similar type of season. I don't think he's going to have the rushing stats that Bo Nix necessarily will, but you have to think that it's a stat that we know Ben Johnson thinks about. So he's going to be he's going to put emphasis on making that stat a positive. So if he can at least level it out, which is a huge enough task in itself, he should be at a Bo Nix level. You do that right there, I don't see why his stat line doesn't increase. What's really crazy is his other 2 stats that I think were really bad, but should definitely improve. The other one I should say was the EPA. The other is he was first overall in attempts downfield over 20 yards. And that's usually indicating that he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just trying to force the ball down the field like a rookie usually does. So if he can get that sophomore swing upward because of Ben Johnson, he's probably going to be a top 7 or 6. I don't know if he'll break that top 5, but you're right, Kyle. He's going to be right there kicking at people's heels.
Expect to see more RPO and more play action, right? So you expect him to see to take what the defense gives you. You expect to see a lot of those dump offs, especially with two really good tight ends. I mean, Brennan, don't you think it's kind of insulting by Yahoo too? I mean, like I said, unless they're just shortchanging everybody. But I mean, they have him passing 50 more yards than he did last year. And our coach last year was Matt Eberflus. Our coach this year is Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Sean joins the show here from sunny Florida over there, man.
Hey,
what's going on, boys?
What's up, buddy?
Son of a bitch.
Look at that guy.
Hey, I just wanted to chime in and say I agree with Kyle. I think he's going to end somewhere in the top 10 this year, boys. I'm with it,
man.
You heard it from Florida, guys.
Yeah, all the way
top
from a
10
different area code.
We're getting ready for sunset. I just wanted to check in, say I love you guys. Brandon, thanks for holding down the fort while I'm gone. Kyle, love you. Jay, love you. We'll see you guys really soon. We'll be back in a couple days.
Yeah, man.
Go
Go
get
get
stars. Enjoy the rest of that vacation for the rest of us, man.
Later, buddy. Crack a couple more for me.
Absolutely. Love you, boys.
Love you, man.
That was Sean, guys, from his vacation. So you did get to see him on a Wednesday. He wouldn't miss a show. See the dedication this guy has, even out there in Florida on a beach. No offense to you, gentlemen. I wouldn't be chiming in. But Jay, what do you think? You got Caleb Williams cracking the top 10?
Oh yeah, like I said, I think he's right there. I'm literally. I think Kyle and I see like perfectly eye to eye on this. I'm not going to say he's going to have a rock star season. I mean, I hope he does, but if he just has these slight upticks, up to 30,
What's up, Ron?
yards, 25, 28 touchdowns, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's to me very realistic, and that would probably put him in that 7 to 8 range, clicking on the heels of the top 5. And I think that's a success. And I don't even think that's a ceiling. I think next year, after this year, the year after that, man, to me, that's when I think he should be much closer to that top 5, or if not in the top 5.
Real quick, guys, I breaking the fantasy real quick. Ron says he asked Adam Rank a good question. His question was, do you think the 2 tight end set will work for the Bears as it did for the Lions? I want to hear your guys' opinion on this, but I'll say this, Ron. I think that the 12-man personnel percentage is going to come down for Ben Johnson on this offense, because you do have 3 receivers that you want to get on the field. You want to see Luther Burden, Odunze, and DJ Moore on the field at the same time. More often than not, I do believe that, because this is a threat that probably only 2 teams in the NFL pose, between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who now have on top of Jalen McMillan and Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. They just added Emeka Egbuka. I mean, teams don't often have this dynamic with 3 receivers who can potentially cause a lot of damage and are really hard to defend. You're going to have to double somebody up. I expect to see Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland on the field a lot as well. But I think Colston Loveland might even be used as a receiver in some 3 receiver sets. So I do think the 12-man personnel is going to come down. But I do think that this is going to work out even better than it did for the Lions, because I think you simply just have 2 better players. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 2 tight end set, the 12 personnel, will make it much easier to run play action. I mean, you just never know if the Bears are putting in all those big, heavy bodies in there to run the ball, or if they're going to sneak Cole Kmet or Colston Loveland out, throw them the ball in the flat. I think the Bears can be very creative, and we've heard Ben Johnson say time and time again, guys, he wants it to look the same when it's different and look different when it's the same, and that's something that kind of constantly keeps the defense on their heels. And the more that Caleb plays under center, the more those linebackers have to bite a little bit. They have to wait a little bit. They can't just brush the line of scrimmage as soon as the ball is snapped. This is how Detroit has made their living for the last 3 years, right? They just guys in open space, because you just make those linebackers wait for 1 second. All of a sudden, you got 3 guys behind that linebacking core, and the whole middle of the field is wide open. I think you're going to see a lot of that in Chicago, but I do agree with you, Bernard. I don't think you're going to see as much 12 personnel here as you did in Detroit, just because I don't think Detroit had the wide receiver 3 of the caliber of Luther Burden. Once he gets comfortable here, and once the Bears figure out, maybe try to get him out of his own head a little bit, try to get rid of some of those character issues, I think you're right, Bernard. I think if you put the ball in his hands, that guy makes plays, and they're trying to get him on the field as early and often as possible. And real quick, guys, just before you touch on that, I'd like to say what's up to Phil, break news, Bruce, Calvin, Ron. Darius is here, man. Love you, Darius. Appreciate you joining the show, man. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you guys haven't already.
What's up, Darius?
Anybody got 25 watching in the building here, guys? So anybody watching on Twitter, please go over to our YouTube page and hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate you guys. If you guys have anything to talk about in the comments, please feel free to put it in there. We're just talking about fantasy today, so the Bears rankings fantasy. So if you guys want to steer the conversation in a different direction here and there, we would love to address some of these questions. Jason, what do you think about the 2 tight end sets in Chicago? And Ron, I'd love to hear the answer that you were given.
Me too.
Yeah, he asked Adam Rank, so I'd love to hear the question or the answer that Adam Rank gave you, man.
I will tell you this: that whole thing you just said, we've been preaching on the show, because obviously Ben Johnson has been preaching it since he's been hired, is making the same things look different, and the different things look the same. That's what I think the 12 personnel is really all about with the play action, because now you have 2 tight ends. Could be blocking, could be going out for a route, could be swinging. You don't know what's going on. So I think you're right too, though, Brandon. I think you might see Loveland out, like 2 guys left, 2 guys right, or 2 wideouts on either side. You might see Cole Kmet out there. You might see DeAndre Swift out there. You're going to see, when I think he says that, like making the same things look different, that's what he means. He means I'm going to put players in different positions. That's why everybody has to know where everybody is and what everybody is doing at all times. And then making different things look the same. He's going to run those players out there. And look, don't be surprised if you see what's his name, Odunze line up at tight end. You know what I mean? And just do a quick little chip and run out. I'm willing to bet there's going to be some really cool plays that are going to happen here. Now, how that affects target share and everything else like that. One of the big things we were talking about in the pre-show is, there's 121 targets vacated by Allen. So, who are they all going to go to? I think 121 targets is a pretty big share to pass around between both tight ends, between the new wide receiver in Luther Burden. But Rome Odunze should have an uptick. I mean, DJ Moore is DJ Moore. He had 140. So, he might not have that many this year. So even if you take, let's say, 20 away from him, he's got 120 targets, which is fine, especially if he's more efficient. Now you've got even more targets to go around and share. And we were also talking that if the offense overall is more efficient, we should be sustaining long drives, like you said, Kyle. We should just have a larger overall target share as well. So I'm not saying that the Bears are going to be – you want to target every single Bear there is, because I don't know if there's really going to be any league winners on the Bears this year for you in your fantasy season. But don't be surprised if some of these guys fall. And we're going to get into a guy later, too, that I think is, like, right now not even being drafted. But don't be surprised if you get a good value on, like, a DeAndre Swift because people aren't thinking he's going to rock and roll. Maybe you hit on DeAndre Swift. Take him. If his ADP is whatever – just don't go above the ADPs is really my advice. But I think that the 12 personnel may help or hurt. I think it's going to help most overall, but I don't know until I see it. You know what I mean?
I think the largest increase in target share will be Rome Odunze and probably DeAndre Swift as well. I think that entire running back unit in general is going to get a lot of passes thrown their way, guys. And we know this is the thing that Eric Bieniemy likes to lean on pretty heavy. Sean, I don't know if I agree with you though. I see what you're saying. I think Rome Odunze will be moved around a lot. He'll definitely go inside. I don't want him on the line though, because that's where we saw this happen with Tank Dell. This is where players are potentially injured. When they're trying to chip defensive ends, this is where these guys get into trouble. I want him still to, I don't mind him in the slot. I still don't want him on the end of the line, though. But
he may not be. They might put Durham Smythe in there, whatever.
I will say this.
Yeah.
This is
that's
going to be the most.
That's a name a lot of Bears fans forget. They did sign Durham Smythe for a reason. He's going to be on the field for sure.
This is going to be the most pre-snap movement the Chicago Bears
it's
have
disguise it all. Ben Johnson's, I imagine, a very good player in chess. He disguises everything, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to keep defense on their heels pre-snap, and that's what a good offensive coordinator in the NFL does, especially today, guys. In today's league, you've got to be able to make things look different things look the same. Like Ben Johnson said, that was the success in Detroit. And we watched a good defensive coordinator. I'll say we watched a really good defensive coordinator, and Matt Eberflus even get bested by Ben Johnson's offense and the gimmicks that he did. I mean, you remember the fake fall down play by Jared Goff, who ends up throwing a touchdown on that play. I mean, this guy is able to get defenses to bite on the things that he's able to disguise. So we're going to see a lot of that for sure. And you've got 5 guys. I've noticed the Bears have a lot of similar traits in their weapons. I mean, all of these guys can play inside. There is not a single receiver on this team who plays that Mike Evans role who's going to consistently be on the outside the numbers for you. So I think that's the way Ben Johnson wanted it. And guys, I have Caleb Williams in the top 10 as well. I think he's 8th overall on my board in fantasy. I do agree with Kyle. I think this is a slower process than people are hoping for. I would probably, especially in a 2-quarterback league, I think if you can get Caleb Williams in a mid to late round pick, you stash him on your bench behind your QB1. And Caleb Williams
QB2 to have on your roster.
Yeah, and he'd probably be starting for you by the end of the year. He was my QB2
or you play him by matchup. You play him by matchup, right? Even if you have a 1 QB league and you say you get Joe Burrow and Caleb Williams, you could play them by matchup. I think come mid-season when Caleb starts to grasp this offense a little bit and things slow down for him a little bit, I think if Caleb's playing a bad secondary, that's a must start. I think Caleb Williams is a must start.
And I think to stress the growth, especially in regards to his numbers, guys, not just necessarily as a football player, but the comfortability. I mean, Caleb Williams was just so uncomfortable last year, and no guy who, no matter which of the 3 offensive coordinators that got a shot, didn't do anything to change this. The Bears are going to establish a run game early and often in this season, and it's going to make Caleb real comfortable. And I think when Caleb Williams is comfortable, and I'm not saying this just as with non-bias as a Bears fan, guys, watch the hell out when this guy's ready to start playing some football and is not worried about who's behind him.
What's up, Erica?
Talking about DeAndre Swift, guys, this is probably the biggest conundrum.
Well, real quick, Vernon, Ron answered our question here. He said when he asked Adam Rink
Yeah, I saw it.
He
Yeah.
said, Adam said the Bears have a lot of weapons in offense. I'm assuming Adam Ray kind of agrees with us. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to use that 12 personnel set as much as you did Detroit because the Bears just have so many mouths to feed. But only one way to find out, right? We'll see when the season comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he could probably do some variation of this. Like the 12 men obviously typically means 2 tight ends in the field and only 2 wide receivers. But there's a way Ben Johnson's going to make this work to get all these pass catching weapons on the field at one time. I have no doubt about that. You're going to see it a little bit. But in regards to DeAndre, what's it?
Empty backfield, because 12 personnel means 1 running back. So what they would do if they want all those guys in the field is it would just be an empty backfield. There'd be no running back.
Yeah, and where Caleb is pretty comfortable. We know guys in the shotgun, nobody behind him. So I do want to get into talking about that backfield. I do want to get into DeAndre Swift because I think this is probably the player that people are going to struggle the most with in their fantasy drafts. Is this a guy that you want to take as an RB2? Is this a guy that you take potentially as an RB3? Does his production increase from last season, even though he had a pretty quality year? And then how much are they going to use these other backs that they just drafted? Kyle Monungai. We've all talked about Roshan Johnson not getting a very fair shot in this offense. Maybe Ben Johnson wants to see more out of him because he was pretty efficient on the short yardage runs. Kyle, do you think DeAndre Swift's production can increase from last season? And if so, where do you place him in your running back rankings versus his ADP?
Well, I'll get into the numbers here real quick, and then the next couple. Jason, you could start off. You could get the numbers that you found. But once again, it was Yahoo. It's half-point PPR, guys. DeAndre Swift's ADP on Yahoo for running backs was 25. Average draft position was 25 for running backs. Overall was 66. He finished as running back 21 in 2024. And you guys, Jason brought it up to us before the show here. He's basically always finished between 18 and 22. I mean, that's where DeAndre
was that yeah, sorry to cut you off. Was that Yahoo's ranking 66th?
Yeah, overall.
Fantasy Pros did the same thing. So yeah, he's probably going to fall around that position in all fantasy.
And he's pretty consistent. I mean, he finishes almost around the same spot every single season. And they had him ranked. So Yahoo half-point PPR had him ranked in between R.J. Harvey at 24, the new running back for the Broncos, and Isaiah Pacheco at 26 for the Kansas City Chiefs. His 2024 statistics, guys, he had 253 rushing attempts, 959 yards, 3.8 yards per carry, which was a career low, and 6 touchdowns. His receiving stats were 42 receptions on 52 targets for 386 yards, which was 9.2 yards per reception, and 0 touchdowns. Yahoo's fantasy projections for 2025 are 236 rushing attempts, so significantly lower than last year, 1,005 yards, 4.2 yards per carry or per reception, or per carry, and 6 touchdowns. And then his receiving yards, 38 receptions for 315 yards. That would put him at 8.2 yards per reception and 1 touchdown. My projections for DeAndre Swift in 2025 are going to look pretty damn similar to Yahoo here, guys. I got him at 216 carries, so I got his carries dropping significantly. We saw DeAndre Swift carry the ball in between the tackles a lot last year. I think the reason that the Bears brought Kyle Monungai here was to take on some of those carries. I think Roshan Johnson's going to get some of those carries as well. So I dropped him from 253 to 216 attempts. I have an 899 rushing yards, so just shy of 900, 4.2 yards per carry. So that yards per carry is going to go up, obviously, due to the fact that the Bears address the interior of that offensive line. I have him scoring a lot more touchdowns this season, though, guys. I think he's going to get 10 touchdowns this season. I think he's going to get a lot more open space, and he's going to find the end zone more often than he did last year. I have him at 48 receptions. So a few more receptions last year, but 452 yards, so almost 100 yards more than he did last year. That's 9.4 yards per reception and 3 touchdowns. So if he finishes with these statistics, guys, that would move him closer to running back 18. Remember, I said they have him finishing as running back 25, and he finished as 21 last year. I have him finishing closer to 18 or 19. Jason, what do you think?
Well, I mean, you guys said it. Listen, he's never finished better than 18th, and pretty much every year he's right in that mid, he's in that lower half, let's just say, of running backs fantasy-wise. Now, that doesn't make him good or bad. Technically, his last 2 years, the 23 with the Eagles and then 24 with the Bears, really statistically 2 of his better years, if not his best.
His only healthy seasons. His only healthy seasons.
100%. So, we'll see what happens this year. I can tell you this, that the Bears used him quite a bit, actually the most in the red zone. I think he had 31 at rushing attempts or something like that. Next closest was Roshan at 14. The big problem is that Roshan Johnson runs scared. So I think you're right. I think Kyle Monunga is probably going to get those goal line carries because let's face it, DeAndre Swift is not a goal line red zone type of guy. He's just not. If it's an outside sweep or something like that, maybe that's how he gets his bones there. But he's also not a big touchdown guy, and he never has been. I think 10 might be a little bit high as far as touchdowns. I was thinking more like 8. But, I think he had like 350 or 400 yards, something like that, receiving as well. I think really what you're going to see is a smaller uptick in touchdowns, but you're going to see a bigger uptick in receptions and passing yardage. And I think he does go over 1,000 yards again this year, but he's only done it once in his career so far. But again, not very many healthy seasons. So I think it's very possible, though. 1,000 yards is not the greatest thing in the universe in the NFL anymore, but it is a standard you should be hitting as a running back, especially as the number one. So I think Roshan Johnson, I think his time is over. The guy ran scared last year. He just did. I'm not that big on him. I was when they drafted him, but after seeing his resume, I'm just really not that impressed. He only hit over 15 miles an hour like twice. Never had a 20. I think maybe like 15 or 16 10-mile-an-hour runs. He's just not. He doesn't have burst, or he does, and he's not using it. I don't know. I'm not that big. I think Monunga is going to get maybe those Roshan rushing attempts this year. I think by midseason, you're not even going to be talking about Roshan. He's going to be, playing special teams. So I think DeAndre Swift, his best case scenario is 15 maybe this year, running back 15. But that still makes him, a solid running back 2 on your fantasy team. So look for his value. Don't overdraft him. Don't shoot because you're a homer and you want to. I'm taking him in the 2nd round. Don't do that. Wait until like the 6th round. In a 10-man format, 10-team league. I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, and I think, Jay, that history is going to kind of dictate where he falls, and there's going to be the big question that looms over everyone: do we take him as our number 2? Or do we try to wait and see if he falls a little bit? Because you're probably going to be forced to draft DeAndre Swift, like Kyle said, at the 66 overall position as your running back too. That could play a big risk if the Bears want to lean heavier on the Roshan Johnson and Kyle Monunga projects they have there. So if DeAndre Swift's usage comes down tremendously, it might hurt you if you do draft him as a running back too. But like Kyle said, I expect the one thing that's blowing my mind, man, is all of his fantasy rankings have his projections dropping in his receiving yards, his receiving statistics.
Yeah, that's weird.
I expect those to do nothing but increase. So you're going to want, and DeAndre Swift's probably going to be the same guy that he's been his entire career, guys. You're going to need big plays out of DeAndre Swift. You're going to need some big receptions for big yards, a big touchdown. Because like you said, Jay, I'm with you 100%. This is not a red zone player. He's not a touchdown dependent player. If that's what you're hoping for out of DeAndre Swift, you're probably in trouble. This guy does not get the ball in the end zone very often, and when he does, it's from way outside the red zone. He usually
draft him per your league. If you're not in a PPR league, stay away from Swift because he has almost no value to him.
Yeah, so I basically judged my statistics guys off of my projections based off of basically kind of what Ben Johnson was doing in Detroit and what Ben Johnson was doing with DeAndre Swift when he had DeAndre Swift. So first of all, when he had DeAndre Swift, he was used much more often in the receiving game than he was the rushing game. I think he averaged 7 carries a game under Ben Johnson, so not a lot, right? And under his tenure with Ben Johnson, he was injured every single season on the Lions. Every single season he sustained an injury on the Lions. So Ben Johnson, my guess is that's probably stuck in the back of his head, and he's going to try to limit, like we said. DeAndre Swift had over 250 carries last year. I do not expect him to get anywhere near that this year. I expect him to be in the 200 teens, 212, 214, 216, 218, somewhere around there. I do expect, like you said, Brendan, his receptions to go up, his reception yards to go up. And the reason I'm saying he's going to have more touchdowns, it's just because when you have so many weapons on offense, it creates a lot of space. And if you look at Jahmyr Gibbs was usually taken out of the Lions offense once they got inside the 5-yard line. Most of those carries went to Dave Montgomery, but Jahmyr Gibbs still finished with 12, 14, 16 rushing touchdowns every season. It's because Ben Johnson knows how to use these guys in their roles. And I think you're going to see DeAndre Swift score touchdowns from the 12, 14, 18, 20-yard line. Like Brendan said, I think he's going to get open space, and you need those big, huge plays. But yeah, I mean, Jason, it wouldn't surprise me if he falls short of the 10 touchdowns. I just think in this offense with that type of player, that Jahmyr Gibbs type player, which is with DeAndre Swift's the closest thing the Bears have to that type of guy. I think they're going to try to force the ball into his hands as much as they can and get him in open space. So I do think he'll get close to maybe like you said, 8-9 touchdowns somewhere.
Get him in open space. He's great. You just got to get him there.
and you have an offensive line, guys, that's going to get a lot more push than the last one did, and that's a big thing because remember, guys, DeAndre Swift took a carry at the goal line last year that he ended up being tackled on the 12-yard line, and we all saw the freeze frame of that play where every offensive lineman on the Bears was on their ass or on their chest. So I think that's going to make a difference too, Kyle. When he's inside the red zone, let's say he's at the 10-yard line, that offensive line's going to get a push. They're going to create holes for him.
He's
So as
got
long
more
as he's-
space. He's got a
as
lot
long as
more
he's
space.
as long as he's the patient runner that he's been throughout his career, the yards before contact is a big thing for DeAndre Swift, guys. We know he depends heavily on that. He needs to get the ball and he needs a few yards to run before he really hits his top speed.
Like
So
I
yeah,
said,
if DeAndre Swift has provided gaps, there's no doubt he's going to find a way to get it.
that 3.8 yards per carry on the Chicago Bears last year, guys, that is not only his lowest of his career. It's by a long shot. I think the lowest previous to that was 4.3. So I mean, you're talking about half yard a carry that he was taken off his average because the Bears' offensive line sucked. Real quick, Bernard, I just want to say what's up to Laz. He says he believes either Wheeler or Monungai will get a larger part of this offense than people.
Is Laz new?
Laz, we've talked.
Laz,
He's been here before.
I think
What's up, Laz?
Wheeler's
How you doing, man?
I think Wheeler's going to probably start this season on the practice squad, barring injury. We might not see him at all. I do also think it's going to take some time for Monangai to carve out a role. Roshan Johnson is going to get first shot at this
He
short
should.
down back, the
He
goal
should.
line carries. He did a pretty good job with the goal line carries last year before he was injured.
Yeah, he was
And
like 5 for 6.
Monangai is a 7th round pick, and I think Bears fans are getting a little bit ahead of themselves. I know the Bears want to utilize more backs than just DeAndre Swift, but it takes a lot of work for these 7th round picks. First off, to make a roster, Monangai will, but beyond that, it takes a lot of time for these guys to carve out a role on an offense in the NFL.
Might be a little bit different here. I mean, I agree with you, Brandon. It's definitely Monungai's not just going to get 20 carries a game to start the season as a 7th round pick and a rookie, but I think it's a little bit different here just because Monungai is the only running back that Ben Johnson chose to be on this roster. So I think
it might be our
a bigger
weakest
role than most 7th round picks. But yeah, he's definitely going to get eased in the offense. There's no point to rushing him anyway. You have DeAndre Swift, you have Roshan Johnson, you have Ian Wheeler. Why would you rush a rookie? But I do believe that Eric Bieniemy is going to make Kyle Monungai his little project. He's going to try to make him a damn good running back in the NFL. And everywhere Kyle Monungai's gone, high school, college, people just kept telling him people kept saying, "You're just not that guy. You're not that guy. You don't have what it takes." He just kept proving people wrong. Hopefully, he can do the same in the NFL.
In the best running back in a run first conference in the Big Ten, guys. If you're not running the football in the Big Ten, you're probably not a very good program. So we know that he has the ability to do it, and he can. I mean, I like this kid. Where I really like Kyle Monangai from what I've seen so far is pass protection. I want Caleb Williams to feel as safe as possible back there, like you said, Kyle. This year is all about making him comfortable. And I've seen Monangai in some highlights put linebackers down. So that's a quality that if Eric Bieniemy sees in him, he's going to definitely earn some time on the field because that's the work outside the work, right? The guys who are doing things when they don't have the ball in their hands. Monangai seems to be one of those guys. He's got a high motor. That'll definitely earn him some time on the field. Sorry, Jay, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, like, it's the running back room. If you're looking at it from a fantasy standpoint, it's probably the weakest position group that we have outside of maybe edge and linebacker. But if Monungai can do well, my biggest thing I was trying to look up when you were talking there, how he did, because I think they played Michigan. That's got a really good defensive line. So if you're running back and have a good game, like you said, against Big Ten defenses, I mean, that's got to come for something. You know what I mean? I just don't know how early he's going to have an impact and how big of an impact he's really going to have. But I would suspect that he's going to pass Roshan at some point in time this year. That would be my guess.
And we saw some clips, guys, from OTAs for whatever that's worth, and you saw Bieniemy picking on him a little bit, and a lot of people kind of criticized him for it, but I think that's a good thing. And he did look sluggish. I'm going to be honest. When he ran those drills, he looked slower than the rest. But Eric Bieniemy is going to
run like an old man.
Yeah, he's going to coach that out of this kid, and that's exactly it. Eric Bieniemy's not. It's not disfavorment. It's
right.
quite the
Jason,
opposite.
I'm looking at his game logs for 2024, and they did not play Michigan.
Oh, I was trying to look for it. I couldn't find it, but
yeah, they played Michigan.
Played Ohio State.
Played Michigan in 2023. He had his worst game he's ever had.
Well, I mean, they won the championship.
Most people did when they played Michigan that year.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the top ranked teams he played last year, let's just look at some of the ranked teams here. So Illinois was ranked 25. That was the only ranked team they played last year. He had 28 carries for 122 yards, 3 receptions for 23 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, but I mean, I'm looking at his highlights right now, guys. When you're on ESPN, look at the game logs. They have the highlights on the site. I mean, the guy just refuses to go down. He just runs over people on a play-to-play basis. And I think he's the guy that the Bears are going to look to get those tough yards in between the tackles, man. I really think at some point, I think that's why they drafted him. I think Ben Johnson likes him. I think Eric Bieniemy likes him, and I think he's going to be their David Montgomery, even if it's not to the same skill level as David Montgomery. You guys know he's actually faster.
Yeah, I'm with you, Laz. Dustin talked about this on Monday. Roshan Johnson, to me, hasn't passed the eye test. There's nothing very impressive about him. He does his job. He gets the extra yard, but he's not very athletic. He's honestly, his draft profile claimed a lot of things that I haven't yet seen on the field. But I will say this: if DeAndre Swift goes down with an injury, guys, which he has done, he's kind of infamous.
He's a running back. Yeah.
Monangai might actually play the starting role where Roshan Johnson would still play that filler role, getting short down yardage. So I don't know. Monangai might carve himself out a bigger role than we think if we suffer an injury at this position, and this is the position that suffers.
I mean, you guys also have to imagine, it's like people keep giving DeAndre Swift excuses for last year with that 3.8 yards per carry. People keep saying all these Bears running backs look so bad, but nobody gives Roshan Johnson the same pass. I mean, he was running behind that same line, so you might, with more open space, you might see different Roshan Johnson. On top of that, guys, Roshan Johnson became a running back his junior year of college, Texas, his second to last year in college. So he has not had a lot of running back snaps. I mean, if you talk,
he doesn't know how to run with the ball in his hands. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, you got to learn how to be patient. You got to learn how to find the right holes. You got to learn how to play and complementary to your offensive line. I mean, a lot of things to go into the NFL football. It's a very, very complicated game. I think Roshan Johnson has room to grow just based off the fact that he's only played running back for 3 years of his life. I mean,
he was playing behind Bijan too, so he didn't get a lot of.
He didn't get a lot of carries there either. And you know what? That's no fault of his. That's just Bijan Robinson's an absolute freak of nature.
Right.
But I think Roshan Johnson's probably somewhere in the middle, right? Don't you think it's fair to say he's probably better than he's looked behind the Bears' offensive line, but maybe not a star?
Yeah, there's just no explosiveness that I've seen so far. I don't see the physical attributes.
I don't think that was ever really like his forte though. Like I don't think I really thought that. Like once Roshan gets through, he can turn the burners.
I think it's funny when people use the term
15 miles an hour 3 times. I could run 15 miles an hour, dude.
Yeah, I think
I'm old.
I mean, but look at the carries he got, man. I mean, he got the 1 yard line carries, the 3rd and 1s. I mean, where they stacked the box. He just didn't get a lot of opportunity in open space. I'm not saying Roshan Johnson's an amazing player, guys. I'm just saying don't be surprised if he hits the field this season and he looks like an NFL running back. That's all I'm saying.
Well, he looks faster in OTAs than Kyle Monangai does. I'll say that. He looks like he's in better shape.
He could be Jamal Williams. Yes, I do.
Real quick, guys, and Laz, we're definitely all hoping that Monangai is the player the Bears drafted to be in that short yardage back that kind of compares to David Montgomery in this role. And if it's Roshan Johnson, I'm fine with that too. Again, guys, I want to appreciate everybody who's tuning in. This is the Barely There podcast on 4-Star Chicago Sports. We were just breaking down the Bears fantasy projections and the players who might make a difference on this team, players that might make a difference on your team as fantasy managers. We had Caleb Williams kind of outdoing his projections his projections at this point in the offseason. They're probably going to raise a little bit, but like Kyle said, he got shortchanged. It feels like we have Caleb Williams, all three. We have Caleb Williams in the top 10.
And I feel like we were being modest with that too. We weren't saying he's going to have 4,500 yards and 40.
I said 7. Vernon said 8. Jason, what did you say? You said 7 or 8.
7 or 8. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
And we have DeAndre Swift falling in line with just about where he's projected and being a running back too on your fantasy team. And Sean said something that I find to be I want to stress this. If you're in a standard non-PPR league, I would probably not touch DeAndre Swift to be my running back.
I would not touch DeAndre Swift in a standard league.
No.
Yeah. So let's move on, guys, to the position.
Make his money off PPR, points per reception. That's where he's going to make his money.
Yeah. And it's a big part of his career. It's been a big part of his career up until this point. And I think Ben Johnson's going to find it in him again because those numbers were a little lower than I expected to be last year. Let's move into probably the best positional group on this Chicago Bears team, especially when it comes to fantasy, guys, and in reality too. I think, like I said, compared to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think the Bears are going in this season with one of the best 3-headed monsters in regards to the wide receiver position. Kyle, Yeah. I mean, this is all based on projection, but Luther Burden's going to be a pretty damn good player, and you're right, and I don't know if it's going to be this season, but at some point, those 3 guys are going to be really tough for any defense to take care of.
Well, and Zacchaeus is no scrub, man.
We always, you know what? I always forget about Zacchaeus. I always do, and then I think when
I like Zacchaeus a lot on Washington.
Great Super Bowl. He had a damn good Super Bowl. Yeah. I feel like every time somebody's catching the ball, I'm like, what? They have AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Zacchaeus has 6 receptions.
He had 8 receptions for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Philadelphia Eagles when they beat him in the regular season. I mean, this is a guy who, when he's relied upon, when other receivers weren't stepping up. What?
He was on the Eagles.
Zacchaeus?
Yeah, he was on the Eagles last year.
No.
Yeah, last year
He was on the Commanders, man.
He was on the Commanders the year before that. He played in the Super Bowl last year, man.
I don't think so, dude. I think he played the Eagles in the NFC Championship. I thought he was on the Washington Commanders. I'm almost positive about that, man. I don't know. But
Chat
anyways,
room,
let's
help us out.
let's get into the guys that are going to be a little more
All right.
important than Zacchaeus in regards to fantasy guys. Kyle, I know that's your favorite DJ Moore, the staple of this Bears
Oh,
offense.
he was on Philly. Sorry, he was on Philly 2023. He was on Washington 2024.
Yeah, and he exploded against the Philadelphia. So maybe that was a personal thing because
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm looking at his numbers right here. He had 45 receptions, 506 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Like, listen, Zacchaeus is not the best player in the NFL. I'm not saying that's
He's
not what I'm
not
saying.
bad.
But, I mean, if the Bears are like, hey, we have to give Luther Burden more time to learn this offense, or Luther Burden more time to heal up that soft tissue injury, having Zacchaeus as your slot receiver is not the worst thing in the world. I mean, he's the people. I think a lot of Bears fans kind of forgot that he was brought here in free agency. He's a capable NFL player, and he can get open.
They saw him out.
And he was one of the
Ben Johnson saw
and he was one of the only players that rookie Jaden Daniels could rely on when Terry McLaurin was being double covered, which we knew was going to happen a lot because there wasn't much else on that football team. And I like Zacchaeus, guys, and I like him being the wide receiver 4 on this football team. I actually texted you guys early last season that I really like this kid, and I said I wouldn't mind because I knew he was a free agent. I wouldn't mind if the Bears signed him. It's one of the first times in my life that I said I wish this would maybe happen for one of my teams, and it actually did. And I think he will make an impact, especially if there's an injury, guys. Yeah, I do think he's shortchanged. I think a lot of people think if one of these guys is injured on this Bears receiving core, they're doomed. I mean, they're going to be able to hold it down. Ben Johnson's going to find ways to scheme these guys.
It was Jahad Dotson that had those 2 huge receptions in the Super Bowl last year. Jahad Dotson.
Yeah, and I think Dotson was a late offseason signing for the Philadelphia Eagles last year too. They kind of snuck that in at the end.
I expect him to be a lot better for you, but that's a different conversation.
And Kyle, I know you have the guy who's been here doing this for a while, and DJ Moore being probably the best receiver in regards to fantasy on this football team. I know me and Dustin have kind of advocated for Odunze taking that big step and being the 9th overall pick he was selected to be. But let's go over our DJ Moore's ADP, where he's kind of finished in his career up until this point, and where we think he might go with the tutelage of Ben Johnson and Antoine Randall.
Yeah, so DJ Moore, we've all heard Ben Johnson talk about how early in the season he expects him to kind of play that Amon-Ra St. Brown at the line of scrimmage, slot, short passes, see how long he can take him, yards after catch kind of guy. So I do expect him to get the most work early in the season. I'm not saying DJ Moore is the best receiver on the Bears. I think the ceiling for Odunze is higher, but right now I think DJ Moore is still the alpha male in this offense. At Yahoo half-point PPR, they have DJ Moore as wide receiver 21, overall ranking of all the players in fantasy at 42. He finished as wide receiver 16 in 2024. I think in 2023 he finished as wide receiver 7. Don't quote me, but I know he was in the top 10, especially with that 1,300-yard season and that huge 50-yard receiving game against Washington, those 3 touchdowns. But he is ranked in between Rashee Rice at 20 and DK Metcalf at 22. His 2024 statistics, guys, he had 98 receptions for 140 targets. He had 966 yards. That's 9.9 yards per reception. That is actually the lowest of his career. His high was 18.1. I think that was like 2022. I think he had 18.1 yards per reception off 66 receptions. Last season, he had 6 touchdowns. His Yahoo 2025 projections are 88 receptions, 1,015 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And you guys, this is the thing that bothers me about this Yahoo projection. The Bears have what people claim is one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, coach and Ben Johnson, a brand new scheme here. They expect to be a more successful offense, move the ball, sustain drives like Jason said, and be on the field more often. They have him 88 receptions. He's finished with 90 receptions in 3 of his last 4 seasons. And the only season he didn't, guys, his quarterbacks, if you go back and look at that season, and the quarterbacks in the Panthers were, I don't even know who some of them are. I don't even know who these.
I think he also missed a game. I think he also missed a game to either injury or suspension or something. I remember him coming back for the Atlanta game because he had missed a game.
Yeah, I think that's where he caught that
the game winner,
Hail Mary, and then he took his helmet off. So I think the team
they lost because
I'm not kidding, guys. There's 2 quarterbacks. Yeah. When I looked at the game logs for the one season where he was under 90 receptions in the last 4 years, I looked at the game logs. I don't know who one of those quarterbacks. I didn't even know that guy played in the NFL. I have no idea that I've never heard of. I can't remember his name. I'll bring it up to you guys later, but there's a reason he didn't have over 90 receptions that year.
Real quick, guys. Laz asked us, "Is any shot that Kansas City makes Pacheco available?" I don't think so, Laz. I think Kansas City really likes Pacheco. I know they did just give a Kareem Hunt a contract, and they did draft Brashard Smith. But you got to remember, Brashard Smith is one of those Devon A. Chain players, one of those Tariq Cohen players. This guy is 5'10", 190 pounds. He's not a guy that you want to utilize too much. This guy is going to get injured.
You're not from 250 carries, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's going to get injured if you abuse this player, and I think he's there especially for passing downs. And I do think that the Chiefs are going to do a lot of good things with Brashard Smith, but I think that they after the Super Bowl that Isaiah Pacheco really helps them win. I don't think they're going to move on from him anytime soon.
Yeah, guys. So my projections for DJ Moore, and we did this on the Barely There podcast about 2 months ago, guys. And this was before they drafted Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. But I just kept it the same because I'm going to stick to it until I figure out what's going on with this offense. But my projections for DJ Moore in 2025 are 106 receptions, 1,298 yards, and 11 touchdowns. That's 12.2 yards per reception. So obviously much lower than Rome Odunze's are going to be, but I think Rome Odunze is kind of more of that downfield threat. And if you took those numbers right there, and put him in the Yahoo Fantasy half-point PPR rankings, that would make him the wide receiver 8. But once again, like I said to start the show here, guys, they also had A.J. Brown at like 1,100 yards. So like if you adjusted everybody, they have him at what? What did I say? What did they say his wide receiver ranking was? 21. They have him at 21. My stats, and if I adjusted everybody's stats on Yahoo, he would be close to about wide receiver 13. On the NFL season, he would be.
I'm curious. DJ Moore is projected 43rd overall by Fantasy Pros. Do you have him then as the 3rd round pick? Is that?
I would have no problem taking DJ Moore in the 3rd round and being my wide receiver number 2 in fantasy. No problem with that whatsoever.
Okay, Jay, I want to ask you first and foremost, because the 4 stars here have kind of argued over this back and forth a little bit. Who is is DJ Moore the best receiver on this football team in 2025 in regards to stats?
I will tell you what, there's 2 different, it's like the tale of 2 cities. There's 2 different types of wide receivers there in Rome Odunze and DJ Moore. I do think DJ Moore is the alpha. For how long? I don't know. But for this year, I think he is. His yards after catch is very, very good. DJ Moore was thrown to, I think, 17th most in the league in deep balls over 20 yards. We already talked about that kind of with Caleb Williams. We're not really sure how much of that was him just scrambling and trying to make shit happen. I think he's really not your deep threat anymore. I think Rome Odunze is. Rome Odunze was the 7th most thrown to in the league, in the league. So you're going to see Rome Odunze down the sides running more, post routes. He's going to run the deep ball. He's not going to be in slot as much. He's a big guy, so he's going to win those 50-50 contested catches as well.
Yes, he did.
Sorry, what's that?
Which he did last year. He did very well winning those contested catches. For a rookie, he did a very good job.
Very much. So I think touchdown-wise, watch out for Rome Odunze. Yardage-wise, you're going to have chunk games where he's going to have a big game and then a slow game. DJ Moore is your guy who's going to get you those steady points. Now, neither DJ Moore
with DJ Moore, right?
Yeah, you're right. I think he's going to lead the Bears in receptions for sure and targets.
Yeah, for sure, no doubt. I mean, it would blow my mind if he doesn't. I think I had Rome Odunze with like 20 less receptions than DJ Moore this season.
The problem is they were using DJ Moore wrong. I mean, he even said it, and I think we all saw it on TV.
Attaboy. Ron says he got banned from Lions chat. He's crying in his beard. There you go.
Good job.
Jason, I want to hear Jason continue because I want to hear what you say. I agree with what DJ Moore said about him being misused in the offense last year.
Right. So neither DJ Moore or Rome Odunze rank in the top 20 in intermediate balls. Those are passes between 10 and 19 yards. DJ Moore was 5th in short yardage targets. When I say short yardage targets, it was Rome Odunze was 77th, by the way. But when I say short targets, it's less than 10 yards. But in this specific case, it was mostly wide receiver screens. And that's just not what
it's like 3 in a row.
Don't even say that word. I mean, so we had a game with what, like 20 passes behind the line of scrimmage last year. I mean, it was ridiculous. At one point, pathetic, man.
Right. And now here's what's crazy. He had 52 routes run on those wide receiver screens, targeted 32 times. Now his catch rate on those was 96.9%. So that's why they did it, because he's got good hands. You throw him the ball, he's 10 yards away, he's going to catch the ball, right? But he needs to be running some slants, and he needs to be moved all around deeper into the field, not taking away the deep ball over, trying to get, over the safeties like Rome Odunze's really, but some of those more intermediate routes, because they just weren't utilizing them in those routes. If you get him in an open space in the middle of the field, DJ Moore might be one of the most dangerous players in the league.
A lot like Amon-Ra.
Yeah, yes, very much so. So I here's what I would say about DJ Moore. I think, you're probably going to see his ADP around, 18 or so, probably a 4th round guy. I think around Chicagoland, he's probably going to go sooner than that, because we all love the kid. I think he's a really good football player. I wouldn't go any higher than maybe the 3rd round on him. But if you're out of the Chicagoland area and you see DJ Moore get out of the 4th round, you take him immediately, because I think he definitely has top 10 overall wide receiver number potential in fantasy this year. Simply because, again, and if I'm being frugal here, just the uptick in, I think, efficiency, the uptick in targets, the uptick in, and what's crazy, uptick in targets, he had 141, but I think he'd easily have 150 targets just from an offensive efficiency standpoint. And look, on those short balls, you're still going to see him in wide receiver screens. I mean, he had, 97% catch rate, I think number 2, by the way, that's number 1 overall in the league. So he had the most targets on wide receiver screens, the most routes run on wide receiver screens, and the highest catch rate on wide receiver screens. Khalil Shakir was number 2.
Stick to your stomach, man, because that is not what DJ Moore is meant to be doing. And Caleb Williams picks apart zone defense, and I think that's where DJ Moore thrives the best, is in against zone defense. He finds a way, and like you said, Sean, he's not getting over the top of the safeties.
Keep calling Jason Sean.
Oh, sorry, Jason. Sorry. This is just habit, but force of habit. But I think if you can get him behind the front 7, behind the linebackers, and like you said, Jason, he's not necessarily getting over the top of the defense. That's not DJ Moore's strength. He is a contested catcher. That's 100% for sure. Both these guys can catch contested balls. But I like DJ Moore against his own defense. He picks zones apart. He's really good at creating separation, but he struggles against better corners, I think, when it comes to man coverage. If you can get him behind the linebackers, in front of the safeties, he seems to find a hole. Like I said, this is his specialty, guys. He finds open space.
Yeah, the game-winning catch against the Packers.
Yeah, and the game winning when he had the big catch to beat the Vikings with Justin Fields playing quarterback. It was that seam, right? He got behind the linebackers, that soft zone. He got behind the linebackers.
Yeah, 10 to 19 yards. Yeah, that's where he should be.
And that's where he's going to do most of his damage. And then we all know, guys, once this dude gets the ball in his hands, he's lethal. I've said this before. I think he actually does. I think he has a youth camp where he teaches receivers how to find angles on DPs, like how to find space after you catch the ball. This guy's. It's probably the thing he does best, and maybe one of the best players in the league at it. Once he has the ball in his hands, he finds a way to take good angles. He finds open space, and he moves the ball forward. And I do really like DJ Moore, and I would never discredit the player that DJ Moore is. I do think Rome Odunze has potential to be a much better receiver. I'm hoping where he was drafted that he's going to be one of the best receivers in the NFL, and definitely one of the best receivers in this NFC North division. I'm with you guys. I have DJ Moore as a wide receiver too. I wouldn't draft him as high as a 1, even for the people that think he's going to take big strides in the Ben Johnson offense. But on that note, let's move on to the guy who I think is being robbed by fantasy projections, the one that's making me sick, guys. Rome Odunze, who was a phenomenal player at Washington. He had what I thought was a quality rookie year. They didn't give him the ball in very good situations. When he was given the ball contested, he caught the ball. Remember I think it was the first time he ever touched the ball in the NFL. The ball popped up against Tennessee in Week 1, and he got the ball at the peak of his jump and was able to, I think he fumbled it, but he was able to bring it down
he fumbled that
over the top of somebody else. But this is what this guy to me is known for. This is what impresses me the most about him, and I know it's something that happens seldomly, but his ability to find the ball at the peak of his jump, like to get over somebody else's defender and bring the ball down, is what I love most about him. So like you said, Kyle, that obviously creates a very good skill for a deep threat receiver. I think Rome Odunze is going to get big plays in this offense. I think they're going to get him downfield, and he's going to catch the ball over the top of a lot of people this year. But I don't love where the fantasy projections are for Rome Odunze, man. Even if you love DJ Moore is ranked 43rd overall in the in fantasy projection. Rome Odunze is almost 40 positions behind him at 81st. And Kyle, you said yourself where you had these guys' projections statistically when we were not even regarding fantasy, just in player projections, you had him with like 90 yards less than DJ. I mean, this is kind of
Not
ridiculous to me.
even 50 yards less.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
so
guy
Rome,
is 40 spots behind DJ Moore.
Rome Odunze on Yahoo half-point PPR right now. His ADP is wide receiver 35. Overall, he is fantasy player number 79. He finished
Was
as
this
wide.
not the 9th overall pick in the draft? Did people forget about this kid, man? I don't understand that.
He finished as wide receiver 49 in 2024 and half-point PPR. So they do actually have him moving up. But yeah, I agree with you, Bernie, not enough here. And he's in between George Pickens at 34 and Jerry Jeudy at 36. His 2024 statistics, guys, he had 54 receptions and 101 targets, 734 yards. That's 13.6 yards per reception. And he finished the season with 3 touchdowns. His Yahoo 2025 projections and half-point PPR are 65 receptions for 910 yards and 5 touchdowns. My personal projections for Rome Odunze in 2025 are 86 receptions, so less receptions DJ Moore, almost 20 less receptions DJ
But
Moore.
30 more than his projection in fantasy.
Yes, 1,246 yards, so 50 yards less than DJ Moore, and 9 touchdowns, so only 1 or 2 less than DJ Moore. And I have him at 14.4 yards per reception, which is obviously more than DJ Moore because we all agree that he is the downfield threat for the Chicago Bears this season. I think he's kind of plays more of that Jameson Williams type role than DJ Moore would. That if you took that and you put those numbers into fantasy and half-point PPR rankings, that would make him the wide receiver 10. But obviously, once again, guys, if you adjusted everybody's stats according to the way I adjusted them, so like obviously you have AJ, they have AJ Brown 1,100 yards. So if you put him at like 14, which we all think he's probably going to get right, 1,400 yards, AJ Brown, then he would probably fall somewhere in the wide receiver 16, 17 range, somewhere in there, 16, 17, 18, which I don't think is unrealistic. I think I think Rome Odunze has a ceiling of wide receiver 12 and a floor of wide receiver 24.
Yeah,
where do you have Rome?
Here's what I would say. I think out of those 121 vacated targets now, I think the vast majority of those are going to wind up in Rome's hands. I think that Ben Johnson has been quoted as saying, I like the big splash play. I like the explosive plays. And what is more explosive than the deep ball, right? That there's no other, big play than maybe a punt return or a kickoff return. So I think he's going to get utilized very well. Now, I mentioned earlier when I think he might be sitting up in that 12 personnel at tight end. I think that's going to be in the red zone. I think that when you're on like the 5-yard line, you have him set up as a tight end. He does a quick little chip block, and then he's just sitting all alone in the end zone. He's big, he's tall, he's got great hands, and I definitely think his upside is crazy this year. I think it's something, and I'm going to give you a really big range, which is not going to help any of you fantasy owners here, but I think he also has, because of his touchdown and just splash yardage games that he's going to have, you're probably got a high-end potential of top 10, but realistically, he's probably top 20, which I think is way better than where he's being drafted at now. I see him still as a 4th-round pick. I still pick DJ Moore before I pick Rome Odunze, but I think the upside, the ceiling for Rome, simply because of the splash play ability, could be something pretty special. And if you have him as your wide receiver 2 or 3 on your fantasy team, you're probably going to be really happy because he's going to be in flex. You're going to find a way to get that guy on your roster.
Let me ask you guys a question real quick. I just want to ask you guys a question real quick. Yeah. If somehow your fantasy draft played out like this, Brandon, if you got the 3 wide receivers that were taken in the top 10 of last year's draft, do you think that Malik Neighbors is capable of wide receiver 1, Rome Odunze wide receiver 2, Marvin Harrison wide receiver 3? Do you think that's a good fantasy wide receiver core?
I think Malik Neighbors is wide receiver 1, and I think the other 2 guys are both wide receiver 2. So I think Marvin Harrison's due for a big year too. I think that Rome Odunze is probably the only
I'd be
guy.
fine with having those 3 guys as my wide receivers.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
100%. And because I think this is going to be one of the best wide receiver classes in NFL history. But I also think because you also had
and quarterbacks. This is going to be that last year's draft class.
What's the kid from Los Angeles? What's the kid from Los Angeles, the Chargers?
Lad McConkey?
McConkey, yeah. You had a really quality wide receiver draft class last year. But I think this, guys, because of his projections, I think Rome Odunze is the only player I would consider a sleeper in fantasy on this Bears offense. And I think if you're getting Rome Odunze to potentially be your wide receiver 3, there's a chance.
Well,
Listen,
don't
there's a
speak too soon,
chance
Brandon. Don't speak too
he
soon.
ends
We're
he
going to get
ends
to
up
Cole Kmet
being
here in a second.
he ends up being your wide receiver 1. That's what I think Rome Odunze has the potential to be.
He's
I
the
think
barometer for the Bears offense this year.
and,
If he's doing really
yeah.
well, that means the Bears are doing really, really good.
And I think the Caleb really likes Rome Odunze. I think these two are very comfortable with each other. And I think this, guys, if Rome Odunze was the 9th overall pick in a draft with a really good wide receiver class, this should be the expectation. And I hear a lot of people saying, like, yeah, it should, but we just don't know when. When, if not now? I mean, Ben Johnson's taken over this offense. He's aware of what he's got on Rome Odunze when it comes to the pure talent the kid has. You have got to get this kid in position to catch the ball in advantageous situations. Rome Odunze is really good yards after the catch player as well, not to mention, but like I said, the contested catch thing, man. I mean, this is
Yeah,
going to be
his
big
strength is his high pointing the ball. There's no doubt. I mean,
this is going to be big for the
Rome
Bears.
Odunze is also a guy who's more flexible and more versatile than people think. This guy had 1,600 yards receiving his last year at
most
Washington.
importantly, and I want to say this, I think Rome Odunze can provide some of the things that DJ Moore provides. I don't know that anybody else on this roster can provide the things that Rome Odunze is going to provide this football team. I think he's a very unique player. I think he was drafted to be. That's why he was drafted as high as he was. I think this guy has the potential to be the second best wide receiver in the NFC North behind Justin Jefferson.
Real quick, not to cut you off, but we have another joiner here, Daniel Bolanos. Appreciate you joining the show, Daniel. You guys, he asks the question. He said, I would ask, why do you guys think Poles didn't go for Dobbins or Chubb? I say they were
real quick before we answer his question.
Expected.
Daniel Bolanos, sorry.
Yeah, thanks for joining the show, man.
That's for you, buddy. We appreciate you jumping in.
For $5 million. He follows that question up with, what do you think we need more of? Running back, edge, linebacker, or other? So, Daniel, I'll answer this 2-part question here. First, I think the part that you didn't sign one of those guys is because you just don't know what you're going to get in terms of injury. Chubb's getting a little bit long in the tooth, and then Dobbins has been injured his entire career. So I think he probably, that $6 and $5 million range probably scared him off a little bit. I think if they were closer to the $2.5, $3 million range, I think Ryan Poles probably would have taken a chance on one of those guys. And we know that he brought them both in for workouts. And then he says, what do you think they need more of? Running back, edge, linebacker, other? I'd say linebacker right now for me is leading the way for the thinnest position on the Chicago Bears. But edge,
I need to go edge
until we figure out what Deo is. I don't think edge is very far behind. Thanks so much.
More importantly, Austin Booker.
Yeah. Anything you guys want to add to that? I just Daniel.
I'm with Jay. I'm with Jay. I mean Sean. Sorry, I mean Jay. You guys should be calling me Sean. I'm supposed to be the Sean. No, I think I'm with you, Jay. I think edge is where the Bears are. Listen, the potential to be a much better pass rush unit is there. Dale, like Kyle said, he's been leading the league in pressure. He's been high in the league in pressures the last couple of years in the NFL. But in regards to sacks, guys, I don't know where the improvement's going to come. And in the middle of the interior of the defensive line, I see a big improvement. But on the edge, I'm very concerned. And I think if Austin Booker doesn't make a huge stride this year, you're going to be lacking in that position a little bit. And I think if I'm the Bears, maybe outside of running back, because this is Ben Johnson's team now, that's what I'm targeting first and foremost in the draft next season.
I don't know, man. I mean, say Deo and Austin Booker both play well here for the Bears, right? Say they're 7, 8, 9, 10 sack guys. If you lose Montez Sweat, they could probably hold down the fort.
Well, then you're really thin.
If you lose TJ Edwards or Tremaine Edmonds,
you're screwed.
I don't even know who would play. If you lose Tremaine Edmonds, who's your starting linebacker? Who's your middle linebacker?
You probably got to move Edwards over and then start somebody else.
Yeah, you'd probably be forced to play. Actually, I think it would be Ogbong Bemija.
Amen Ogbong Bemija.
Yeah, I think that's Ogbong Bemija. I think
not gonna play here anymore.
Ogbong. Every time I say
guys,
Ogbong,
I don't know about you guys, but when the 53-man roster cut downs happen, I sure hope the Bears add a veteran linebacker. I'm not saying like a really good $20 million player.
There's still one or two out there.
Yeah, somebody who's played football in the NFL for a long time. They can at least hold down the fort, man. Because, man, if they lose the middle line, if they lose Tremaine Edmonds, who's not really – I'm not saying he's a superb player to begin with, but he at least is above average. If you lose him, that linebacking core is in massive trouble. Vernon, before we move on, I know that Jason wanted to – and I didn't – we didn't dig as much into Cole Kmet as we did the rest of these guys, but I know Jason wanted to talk about the fact that he feels like he's just being flat out disrespected. So, Jason, go ahead, man.
All right. Well, here's the thing. First of all, he's not really being drafted at all in these mock drafts by anybody. I don't understand why he's not being.
I wouldn't, Jason. Personally, I would not.
And you know what? You don't necessarily have to, but I think if nobody's drafting him, I think fantasy-wise, his value is ridiculous because that basically means your last pick in your draft could be Cole Kmet. He's going to be probably the best player available if that's what you're talking about. And if we really wanted to break down the tight ends, now Cole Kmet, and now we know we got Colston Loveland coming in, but the guy's not practicing yet. So, his fantasy overall value may be very low first half of the season, then better in the second half of the season. But that's definitely not going to put him, in an overall great situation. And I don't know how high you want to draft a kid because right now everybody's drafting Colston Loveland way before, like number 10. Like it's ridiculous. Some of these places, like they're putting him as the number 10 tight end. Are you kidding me? He hasn't practiced yet. I hope he's a 10, but let's temper our, reasoning here. Really what gets me is, first of all, his catch rate. We talked about it before the show started here. He had 85.5% catch rate. Out of 55 targets, me and Kyle were laughing. We all were. He had 47 receptions. Basically, if you throw him the ball, he's going to catch it. It's ridiculous. Cole Kmet had... Okay, so 55 targets last year. Allen is 121. I keep saying about his vacated targets. Let's just say he gets 2 more targets per game, guys. 2 more targets per game. That means he's literally going to have top 9 for tight ends and targets, right? If you adjust that number for his 85% catch rate, that's 29 receptions. And 10 yards per reception, which is what he averaged, 10.1, which is like number 1 out of all the tight ends. He would have 764 yards, which puts him at top 6, and 6 touchdowns, which puts him at top 8. So if he gets 2 more targets per game, he's a possibly top 10 tight end, and he's not being drafted. This is insane to me.
Jason,
do you expect his targets to increase this
Well,
season?
Vernon, let me put stuff in perspective.
2 more targets?
Let's put this stuff in perspective for the listeners here. So I went ahead and did the same thing I did with the rest of these players. So Cole Kmet's average draft position in fantasy at half-point PPR in Yahoo is tight end 28. He is overall player number 226. Cole Kmet finished as tight end 7 in 2024 in half-point PPR. He is right now ranked in between Chig Okonkwo at 27 and Dalton Schultz at 29. His 24 statistics, like you said, Jason, 47 receptions on 55 targets, 474 yards. It's 10.1 yards per catch and 4 touchdowns. His 2025 projections by Yahoo are 28 receptions for 269 yards and 3 touchdowns. My personal projections for Cole Kmet with them integrating Colston Loveland into this offense are 56 receptions for 668 6 touchdowns. If he does that, he will finish as a top 12 fantasy tight end, and he should be drafted in fantasy football.
And if he gets 1 more target per game, he's like even better. I'm not saying he's going to have 100 targets or 100 receptions, guys. 50 targets for a tight end is not like that big of a deal. 60 targets for a tight end is not that big of a deal.
I'm going to push back on this because so to me, you have 4 or 5 quality guys that are going to consistently get you double-digit fantasy points, and the rest of these guys are kind of boom or bust. To me, Kmet is more often bust than boom. In the last 5 weeks of last season, he had a total of 5 receptions for 36 yards and 1 touchdown. Guys, that's
we don't even know
one game's worth of statistics.
We don't even know who the offensive coordinator was in the last 5 weeks.
Now, hold on. He did 5. So I'll read you 0 targets, 0 receptions, 1 target, 1 reception, 2 targets, 0 targets.
Because they didn't throw him the ball. That's the problem.
Right.
Now you throw him the ball.
And this is when he was tight end 1. So,
dude, he has an 85.5% catch rate. A guy like Ben Johnson who knows stats is going to say,
he's Mr. Reliable.
The ball all the time. Maybe I should throw him the ball more.
He's Mr. Reliable. I just don't know that listen, I don't think Cole Kmet's going to make a difference to your fantasy. I don't think even if you draft him in the last round, I don't think you're going to start him over whoever it is that you drafted before him too often, because most fantasy leagues only allow you to play 1 tight end unless you're flexing one, which I think is a terrible idea. But if you are flexing even if you're flexing a tight end, I still don't. Do you trust Cole Kmet on your fantasy team to be in a starting role?
If I pick him in the 15th round, why not?
But if
You
you
know
pick
what
him in
I'm
the
saying?
15th
Like,
round,
I'm
he's
going to
not
be starting
starting
him a
on your
couple of weeks, I
fantasy team.
promise you.
If you pick him in the 15th
Well,
round,
he
though,
might.
you're
He might
probably
end
hoping
up.
to never really start him. You're going to have that one bye week where your guy who you drafted to start is
Dude,
not
I might
playing.
go 0 tight end and wait to pick up Cole Kmet in the 15th. While I'm picking up wide receivers and running backs, you guys are all going to be
Yeah, just so you guys know,
I'm a guy who can
Cole
get me.
Komet,
Yeah.
new coaching staff or not, he is going to earn $11.6 million in 2025. That is not a guy you stick on the bench. He's going to play for the Chicago Bears. He's going to make the transition for Colston Level much easier. We've already talked about how Ben Johnson loves 12 personnel. Cole Komet's going to be on the field. He's going to get open. He has in the past. He's going to get catches. Listen,
He's going to be a red zone guy.
This is not an amazing seat. Like I'm not when I sit here and say I think Cole Komet's going to have 56 receptions for 660 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's not like, oh my God, you got him being Travis Kelce. No, I got him being Kyle Pitts, a failed draft pick, failed top 10 draft pick, but he wasn't drafted in the top 10. He was drafted about the second round. I think Cole Komet is exactly what you think he is. I think he's somewhere in between his season prior to last year. He had over 700 receiving yards. Last year, he had over 400. He's probably somewhere in the middle, which is where I put his projections, right? I put him at 600 and something. If Cole Komet can continue that 85% catch rate, Ben Johnson's going to find a spot for him in this offense for sure, no doubt about it. Especially
he was number one in routes run.
Struggles early, and you guys, people keep saying Colston Loveland's the next coming of God. Kyle Pitts was drafted 4th overall and was one of the best college tight ends we've ever seen in our entire life. He's been nothing but a disappointment in the
terrible
NFL.
Situation. But I'm going to say this, man. If I'm here, given the viewer and the listener my advice, I stay away from Cole Komet in fantasy football. That's if I'm giving you so you can't come back on me and say, hey, you told me to draft Cole Komet. It blew up in my face. I'm telling you,
I've always found that
don't draft him in the 4th round.
Brennan and Dustin don't like somebody. They go to a very extreme one side. Like if a Bears fan who's like, I'm not a huge fan of Cole Komet.
I don't dislike Cole Komet.
I'm just saying, like
I like Cole Komet the player a lot more than I like him in fantasy football.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Like, if just because you think Colston Loveland's going to be better than Cole Komet doesn't mean you go to yourself, you say to yourself, well, then Cole Komet's going to be completely phased out of this offense. Like, because I think Colston Loveland's going to be better. Cole Komet's going to be phased out of this offense. That's just not going to happen.
Draft Colston Loveland as a tight end too.
He's making $11 million a year, and he's never proven that he's a bad player in the NFL. Like, if he was a terrible player, Ben Johnson would be like, I don't give a shit how much money you're making. You're going to sit your ass on the bench. He's been a good player in the NFL. He had 700 yards, 7 touchdown season. That's a good season for a tight end.
I agree, man. I just don't expect the numbers to increase when you added
from what?
You've
from
added
the
to
700 yards or from 400 yards last year?
From 700, absolutely not. There's no chance.
So you think he's going to be somewhere in the middle?
About 600.
I think he's going to be somewhere around what he was last year. Listen, I think you're going to get games. If you have Cole Komet on your team, you're going to have games with 0 statistics. He's going to have goose eggs. That's what I think is going to happen if Cole Komet's on your fantasy team.
That's not true.
I don't see that happening.
No.
You don't think there's going to be a single game where Cole Komet doesn't get a statistic?
Plus, I bet he has a reception every single game.
Plus, you've said numerous times, Brennan, you believe that Colston Loveland's really good in open space. Well, open space isn't good for when you're bunched inside the 5-yard line. Like, if you're all bunched up inside the 5-yard line, Colston Loveland doesn't have much room to run his route and create open space. Cole Komet catches the ball every time it's thrown his way. Every time the ball is thrown his way. So why would you not throw it to him in the end zone? Why would you not throw it to him in the end zone? That doesn't make sense. But if you have a guy on your team that catches the ball 90% of the time, he's throwing the ball.
Why wouldn't you throw him touchdowns? I mean, what are you guys
advising? Justin made a great point here.
What are you advising?
Undrafted, just pick him up in the waiver wire.
What are you advising to the viewer here, though? To draft Cole Komet, just stash him and never actually use him? Is that what we're telling guys to do?
A lot of people will draft 2 tight ends. I do sometimes as well. I mean, look, after the first 4 tight ends, every single tight end is the exact same. I don't care what anybody tells you.
I agree.
There's really not that much.
You have the consistent guys and you have the boomer bust guys. Cole Komet to me is a boomer bust guy.
I just
got to get in the end zone. Cole Komet has to get in the end zone.
He most certainly will. Let's just throw this little thought experiment out there. You're on offense. You've got Rome Odunze, you've got Colston Loveland, and you've got Cole Komet. 3 big dudes running cross routes in the end zone. I think you're going to see a lot of it because the Bears, even with a crappy offense last year, were actually pretty efficient in the red zone. I don't see that going down. I would imagine they're going to get better in the red zone. If I think Ben Johnson is a better coach, I then must think, therefore, that the offense is going to be better. That means that everybody, I think, on the team should have a slight uptick, which is where I'm really basing everything. I don't think anybody's going to have these super stellar years. I pray to God they will. But if you have just a 10% uptick, in some cases, a 5% uptick in statistics, which is not without like merit. I think that's very reasonable to think so. These guys have a much higher draft value. Their ADP is low, which means their value is high in fantasy at that ADP.
By the way, guys, based off of last year's statistics, defensive statistics, the Chicago Bears, they have the 4th easiest schedule for tight ends this season. 4th easiest schedule for tight ends this season, which means the teams that are playing this year were not very good against the tight ends last year. So the tight ends are going to be used
Cole
a lot.
Kmet he's a sneaky player. He's good at disguising himself in a route. He when he catches a touchdown, he's often open. I don't think that he's like a corner fade. Like I think Colston Loveland you can tell Colston Loveland hit the corner of the end zone. I'm just gonna lobby the ball right after the snap and look for it and go get it. I don't think Cole Kmet's that kind of. I don't think you're going to be drawing that play up for somebody like him. Correct. I think it's going to be more of a let's kind of hide Cole Kmet during the blocking early in the blocking stage of a play and see if we can't sneak him behind the defense. And he was
14th in deep ball targets last year,
and he was pretty good. He was pretty good at that. He was pretty good at kind of being forgotten about when they're in the red zone. But I do, and Jay, I agree with you. I think this offense is going to get tremendously better. But I also think it's not going to be for one player specifically because you've added so much talent that if the offense in its entirety gets better, the numbers might still come down for every player individually.
I guess anything is possible, just like something can exist in two places at once if you understand what quantum physics is. But who the fuck understands that shit? What I do know is this. In 2023, he was number 2 in deep ball targets behind only George Kittle. Don't underestimate Cole Kmet. And Dustin had said, yeah, but they drafted Colston Loveland. I think the way the draft fell, they picked Colston Loveland because he's the better tight end, and they saw him as probably their number 2 offensive player in the draft. That's why they took Colston Loveland at number 10. I think that Ben Johnson values tight ends because he loves that 12 personnel. That's why they drafted another tight end. That's also why they picked up another tight end in free agency because he's going to need tight ends, and he can't have guys sitting on every play running 100% of the offensive snaps. So
on the Lions, was the second tight end ever worth owning in fantasy?
Well, he's not. I think he's going to be a tight end 1 this year. Next year, I don't think he's going to be on the team. I think Colston Loveland is now going to take over, and they'll find some other guy in free.
Well, plus, you guys, you have to imagine that Ben Johnson, part of the reason he drafted Colston Loveland is he's like, man, I've had 2 tight ends, but one of them's kind of and one of them's good. He's like, I can't imagine the possibilities with 2 good pass-catching tight ends, and he's going to use that to his advantage. He's not just going to be like, well, I'm so used to having a Sam Laporte and a Brock Wright. I'm just going to make Cole Kmet by Brock Wright. Like, it's not going to happen. If he's going to do things differently in Chicago than he did in Detroit based off the personnel, he now has 2 capable pass-catching tight ends. He's going to use them. He's going to use both of them, which just makes it even tougher on defenses. Like, damn, man, they have an Aaron Hernandez and a Rob Gronkowski. How are we ever going to stop this offense? Oh, and if they don't have those guys, DJ Moore and Rome Odunze are sitting on the outside waiting. Like, Cole Kmet's going to catch the ball. There's no doubt about it. He's going to get a lot of opportunities. He's going to open up the middle of the field for Caleb Williams. And you guys talk about bonds or relationships. I mean, Caleb Williams is used to playing with Cole Kmet. He's not used to playing with Colston Loveland. So early and often in the development of Caleb Williams, you need to put Cole Kmet in because that's what he's comfortable with. That's what he's used to. That's what he's done here. So early in the process, the transition period for Caleb Williams learning a brand new offense, put guys around him that he's comfortable with and he's used to playing with. And that would be Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, Rome Odunze, and DJ Moore. Those guys are going to be used often.
Isn't he like 6'6" and 240 pounds too, Cole Kmet? I mean, he's going to be a mismatch for everybody.
They're both 6'5". They're both big dudes. Last says Loveland is he's a big dude. He's a big target. Loveland is that dude at tight end we haven't had since Greg Olsen. And even if Olsen wasn't Olsen until he left here, Cole is just a guy, not shifty. Here's my question to you: If Colston Loveland is a better player than Cole Kmet, if that's what he ends up being, which think we all agree that
Rational, yeah.
we're hoping for that.
Right.
I'm hoping for that. But if he is, when you're in one tight end sets, wouldn't you prefer to have your better player on the field?
No, Brennan, you just said you think Rome Odunze is going to be a better player when he hits the ceiling than DJ Moore. But when you had
I
one
think he is a
receiver
better
sets,
receiver today.
well, you had one receiver sets last year. Who was on the field? DJ Moore, because he's an NFL veteran, not because he's going to be better than Rome
Odunze's not a
Odunze.
rookie anymore.
I'm saying, but last year, Colston Loveland is a rookie. So if you base that same ideal or the same logic that you just used, like, well, if he's a better, if he ultimately is going to be a better player than Cole Kmet and one tight end sets, wouldn't he be on the field? Well, Rome Odunze wasn't on the field over Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, although he might be a better player.
I agree with Jay that Cole Kmet's probably not going to be on this football team in a year from now. So I want Colston Loveland on the field as much as fucking possible, dude.
Yeah, but Rome Odunze was Keenan Allen wasn't going to be your next the year following, and Rome Odunze wasn't on the field over Keenan Allen. You take who gives you the best chance to win each game. That's who you put on the field.
Yeah.
Track says this. This is outside the debate, guys. Track says Greg Olson absolutely loves Colston Loveland. He said that there's plenty of room for both tight ends, and he did say this.
I agree with.
He said he likes the potential of both these guys being used, but he did also. Greg Olson did say this. He believes that Colston Loveland is a modern day tight end. And he's that George Kittle, Travis Kelce type player.
Yeah,
if that's the case, I want that guy in the field. Dude, if that's the case, he could be better than your receivers. I mean, Travis Kelce is the best pass catcher on the Chiefs. That's what I mean. If this guy has the potential to be that,
to him by the best quarterback.
You guys, like Kyle Pitts was supposed to be the best tight end ever played football, right? And they drafted him with the top 5 pick, he was on the field a lot. But Austin Hooper was still catching touchdowhdowns. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Kyle Pitts
both can be true. Both can be true.
Pitts is a bust.
But they wanted him on the field as much as possible. When he was the 4th pick in the draft. Like they still, even if he was bust, they still wanted. They didn't know that until the end of year 2 that he was a bust.
I want that dude on the field as much as possible.
Yeah, they're both going to be on the field a lot, but Cole Kmet will be the guy they lean on early. There's no doubt about it. In my mind, Cole Kmet is going to get a lot of targets early on in the season for Caleb Williams. He's going to be kind of his security blanket. Once Colston Loveland, instead of knowing this much of the playbook, knows this much of the playbook, then they'll start putting Colston Loveland on the field more often in those one tight end sets. But that's a long process.
In his absence,
playbook this big in 2 days.
Real quick, guys. What's up, Amphiers? What's up, Tom G? Amphiers says, I will never forgive Mike Martz for running off Greg Olson. In Sean's absence, I'm going to say Sean says a lot about the inability that Colston Loveland's reported to have blocking. But I don't think that's going to remove Colston Loveland from the field. If Cole Kmet is a better blocker by the standards of this coaching staff, he'll be schemed to block more often than Colston Loveland is. That'll also affect his target share, man. If he's on the end of the line next to Braxton Jones, and that's where he's going to be for the remainder of the play, not running a route, Colston Loveland's going to be utilized as a receiver more often than Cole Kmet will. I think that's also going to have a really big impact on Cole Kmet.
Basically, you guys were all saying the same thing. Like at the end of the day, if you're talking about ceiling, you're talking about year 2. Colston Loveland knows the entire playbook. He's comfortable. The NFL has slowed down for him. It's almost the same speed as it was when he was playing in college. He is going to be the alpha male in the tight end room, even if Cole Kmet is extended. But early, when Colston Loveland's like, "Hey, I forgot my assignment on that play. I couldn't remember that play. Sorry, I missed training camp. I missed OTAs. I missed all this stuff because my rebuilt shoulder. I apologize." They're going to be like, "It's cool, man. We got Cole Kmet to fill that role until you learn that play. Don't worry. Take your time learning that play, Colston. You don't have to learn everything in one day. We're not going to overwhelm you." Cole Kmet is a capable pass catcher. He's good in the NFL. He had a 700 yards, 7 touchdown season. He's proven that he's capable of doing this. You take your time learning those plays, and Cole Kmet will be on the field until that moment. Or both of you guys be on the field, and we'll switch you out, and we're interchange you. Cole Kmet's going to run on this route, and that next play, Colston, it's going to be your turn. But they're not just going to be like, "Hey, Colston, here's the playbook. Week 1, you're starting 19 of 28 plays. Good luck." That's not going to happen. That's
Go
just
watch a Cole Kmet
that would be
highlight
dumb
reel
by the
again,
Bears
like-
to do that. That would be really stupid.
So do you think that towards the end of the season, Colston Loveland will begin to
Yes, I
surpass?
said
Yes.
at the beginning of the show. I think
So in
come
regards
week
to
12,
fantasy,
13, 14.
you think Cole Kmet, when your season matters most, when you're trying to fight for the playoffs in a fantasy league, is when you're going to see Cole Kmet's usage come down?
You could draft both of them and switch them. You could draft Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland.
I wouldn't
in week
draft both
8
those
when
guys.
Colston Loveland starts catching more passes than Cole Kmet, switch them. That's we do, you do it all the time. Bernard, I put Xavier Worthy in my lineup last year.
Xavier Worthy's going to have an incredible fantasy
I
year.
drafted Xavier Worthy last year. I put him in my lineup in week 8 because the first 7 weeks of the season, he was not good. He was not good.
Tom G says, speaking of the 12-man personnel, I feel like we've hammered the personal meaning Bears moves to death. I'd love if we started breaking down the film of the Lions office and see what we can glean. I don't know if you're reading, Tom, are you talking in regards to the Bears in practice, like the actual Bears staff? I don't, in regards to podcasting, I mean, there wasn't like Kyle and Jay have stated, you have a different dynamic here with the 2 tight ends we have. Wright was just not. There's nothing to see there as far as I'm concerned.
Brock Wright was never drafted to be a pass catcher in the NFL. That was never going to happen.
It was a Sam Laporta show in Detroit.
Yeah, I hope that Ben Johnson's able to get more. I'll certainly say this: Ben Johnson's going to get more out of the 2 tight ends here than he did between Laporta and Wright. And Laporta had a really good rookie season.
And Brennan, you're talking about, what did Brock Wright have? 300 yards? I mean, it's not. You're not like.
I couldn't even tell you.
So I say Cole Kmet has 500. That's not much more than Brock Wright, and you just said he's a much better player. All right, so in 2023, he had a bit. I didn't see his 2024 statistics on here, but in 2022, he had 216 yards. So I mean, it's not like the guy they were like, well, this guy just doesn't catch the ball. He's never catching the ball ever again. Like, he caught, and he only played 4 games last year.
To keep defenses honest, you have to throw the guy the ball every once in a while. He's not.
You can't have a guy in the field where they're just, the defense is like, well, don't worry about that guy. Don't worry about that.
I think when it comes to tight end usage, there is going to be one of these guys is going to establish themselves, and you guys could be right. Like, I mean, Colston Loveland's a rookie, and he's playing a hard position to grasp your head around in the NFL. But one of these guys is going to become the dominant player over the other. I believe that. I don't think you're going to get like an even 400-yard split here. I think you're going to get a guy who's excelling in the receiving role, and a guy who's coming down.
I personally won't touch either of these guys in fantasy. That's just me, unless, like Jason said, Cole Kmet's there in the undrafted free agent, and you have a guy who you're like, oh, I drafted this nobody. I don't know. I like my chances better with Cole Kmet, so I'll drop him and pick him up. But I wouldn't draft either of these guys. But next year, I would draft
on rosters this year. Somebody's going to play him. They might not draft him. They may not start him in week 1. But before mid-year, he's going to be on one of your guys in one of your leagues. He's going to be on their roster starting a game. I promise you.
So, guys, have we ever seen James Christo in the chat before?
No, James, what's going on, buddy?
I don't love your first chat here, James. He says Colston Loveland was a waste of a draft pick. Period. I'm not sure why you have that mentality. If you believe that, James, if you honestly believe that, you cannot. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here, but you cannot be the biggest fan of your new head coach, considering that's the first personnel decision this guy made.
I was just going to say, James, go over to
hold
website.
on. James Christo, real quick. That's for you. Thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate you. We love you. Please keep coming with the chats, guys. Everybody who's in there, we appreciate you. Hit that like and subscribe.
He follows it up with, we should have drafted
Michael Williams.
Sorry.
Mikael Williams. But if James, if you get a chance, go over to our website, 4starchicagosports.com, and check out one of the blogs that I wrote on there. It's called Trusted Ben. It explains the whole draft process and how some things are going to seem kind of odd and some things are going to seem like kind of a reach. But if you trust in Ben Johnson, then you have to trust the process until he's proven that it didn't work. So if the Bears start off 0-7, then you can start asking questions. But right now, with the roster they have, with the moves that Ben Johnson's made, with the draft picks he selected, you really can't question them until it's proven that it's not working. I mean, if Colston Loveland comes in here and his second season in the NFL, he catches 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns, then
and remember, James,
probably not a good look.
Your head coach and your offensive coordinator spent the bulk of their careers as tight end coaches. These guys both love Colston Loveland. Declan Doyle loves Colston Loveland just the same as Ben Johnson does. If 2 former tight end coaches see some potential in this kid where he's worth a top 10 pick, I think they think that he can be something pretty special. And like Kyle said, I'm with you, Kyle, and I'm going to move forward with this regime, with the Ben Johnson coaching staff and these guys, and I'm not going to knock anything until I see it. You know what I mean? If I see Colston Loveland fall flat on his face after his rookie year and we get nothing out of this guy, that was a terrible top 10 pick. But if I see progress week in and week out from this kid, and I see Ben Johnson and Declan Doyle turning this kid into a potential George Kittle, even a George Kittle, I'll keep Kelsey's name out of this. If you're talking about that kind of player, this was the right move to make, man.
Yeah, 100%, James. You can definitely have your opinion. I'm not. If that's the way you feel about him, that's the way you feel, man. I'm not bashing you. Maybe you're right, and he ends up sucking, and we all look stupid. But I do think there's a lot of potential with Colston Loveland. I think there's a reason they drafted him. I think he's one of the best route runners in the college. He was one of the
We
best
more
route
than
runners in
implore your
college.
opinion, James. Keep
Yeah.
bringing it.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
if
We
in
appreciate,
sports,
yeah, man. The
we
more
everybody
you put in the
disagrees in
chat here,
sports.
the more interesting it makes the conversation. We appreciate you. We respect your opinion completely, James, in every way, shape, or form. I have a strong feeling Colston Loveland's going to be the starting tight end for Dustin's fantasy team at some point this season. I can tell you that. I think he's definitely going to be on Dustin's roster for sure. If not, then because Dustin's saying this guy is going to be Travis Kelce. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be on Dustin.
I hope he's right, man.
What's
How-
up,
So do
Razzle?
I. So do I. I just don't think it's going to be in
But
2025.
James, yeah, like that's sports. This is sports. This is why we have a show. I mean, if we all agreed that
Yeah.
this would be a stupid thing to do, so no, please keep it coming, man. If there's something, guys, that you don't agree with, or something that you do agree with, let us know. We love to talk about. That's the stuff we love the most, to be honest with you, man. If everybody in the chat was like, "That's 100% correct," this would kind of suck. So keep it coming. Razzle Dazzle
Sure.
joined us, guys, with a ... and then James Christos says, "The way I see football, we needed a defensive." Oh, I'm with you, man.
We
The
definitely
edge
needed a
position,
defensive
the
line.
pass rush was not addressed in the
James,
draft.
James, if the Bears would have drafted Michael Williams at 10, I would not have been upset. I would not have been like, "Oh my God, what are the Bears are doing? They're so stupid. That's what's so dumb." Like I just said, I have my money where my mouth is. I trust in Ben Johnson. If he had decided that Michael Williams was the best player for this team, I trust him 100%. And Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen, by all accounts, guys, is a top 5 defense coordinator in football. If that's the guy he wanted and they wouldn't got him, I wouldn't have been upset with it in any way, shape, or form. I'm just not upset with the Colston Loveland pick. I do think it was a little bit of a reach. I just think that a lot of times the NFL draft, some of these guys who you don't really notice in college, but then all of a sudden they go to the combine and people start saying their name more and more and more, and they start to move up the rankings. Sometimes that can bite you in the butt, but I do trust Ben Johnson more than I've trusted Bears coaches in the past. So it remains to be seen what Colston Loveland is going to be for this team. But I do think that if Ben Johnson has faith in him, he's probably going to end up being a very good player. But
I will say this: if you're drafting Colston Loveland in regards to fantasy, this is a guy that you're drafting in fantasy. You better expect a long road ahead, and this better be somebody you're stashing. Like Kyle said, this is not a guy I'm drafting and plugging in week one. That's
dude,
just,
I would draft Colston Loveland in a dynasty league, no doubt.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No doubt
Dynasty
about it.
for sure.
No doubt
There's
about
a
it.
keeper,
And
yeah.
Luther Burden. I would draft Luther Burden. Luther Burden might end up being the best pick in that draft if he can reach his. You hear some of these draft scouts saying he could be Antonio Brown. If that's the case, then I would draft him in a dynasty league as well. Yeah. Anything
I
else
think
you guys want to talk about in terms of fantasy?
James saying I think the Bears just leaned a little too far in the offensive side of the football. They did draft 3 offensive players with their first 3 picks when I thought the defense was the weaker side of the ball. I think Shamar Turner the 4th pick in their draft.
No, Ozzie Trapilo went after Shamar Turner, I believe.
Oh, did he?
No.
I thought.
Oh,
No.
yeah, because he had the 3 seconds. That's why.
Yeah, it was like a couple picks, but I think it went offense, defense. But James, to that point, if you're obviously a Chicago Bears fan and you've never seen a good quarterback here, aren't you kind of happy that the Bears did whatever they could to make Caleb Williams comfortable and eliminate the excuses? I mean, I'm sick of people telling us we have a franchise quarterback. I want to see Caleb Williams throw 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. Then I'll believe we have a franchise quarterback. And the only way to do that is to address the offensive line, address the tight ends, address the running back, address the wide receivers. And unfortunately, you can't fix the entire team in one offseason. It's just not possible with the way the salary cap's set up. So I think the Bears are planning on addressing that defensive end position at some point in the near future.
I think their next draft is going to be heavily defensive.
As comfortable as possible.
You're going to see a running back and then defense. That's what I think next year's
or maybe
draft's
left
gonna look
tackle,
like.
depending on what happens with Ozzie Trapilo. But yeah, I think at this point in Ben Johnson's tenure here in Chicago, to get his foot in the door here, I think the first thing him and Ryan Poles talked about was just making sure that Caleb Williams is not getting hit 68 times a game and has somebody to throw the ball to when he's under duress. And they address the interior of the offensive line because he's going to be playing a lot under center. And I just think everything they did was for Caleb Williams.
We don't want history repeating itself. I mean, it certainly looked like when Matt Eberflus became the head coach of his football team with our first 2 picks, his first 2 picks in the draft, he took defensive backs when the Bears desperately needed a wide receiver, and that hurt him. It hurt him bad. Justin Fields had nobody to throw the damn ball to until they were forced into a trade for Chase Claypool, which burned him even worse. So, I mean, I'm with you. Like you've got to try to strengthen both sides of your ball, but it's not a surprise to me that an offensive head coach leaned heavily on the offense in this draft.
In the league, the way it is now, it's an offensive league, guys. There's only like 2 or 3 teams with great defenses. Everybody else got the same. You need to outscore people. That's The name of the game now.
And Jason, Ben Johnson said, he said that out of his own mouth the second he said, guys, this is a quarterback-driven league. So the quarterback is the most, actually, you guys, the quarterback is probably the most important position in American sports. You're talking about football, basketball, hockey, baseball. It's probably the most important position in American sports. And James says here, Caleb Williams would have been much more comfortable if we moved up to draft Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks. Well, I heard a lot of draft experts say that these guys didn't have long enough arms. They're probably going to end up moving to guard. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe it isn't, but maybe the Bears just weren't comfortable moving up for a guy who they think is going to be kind of a question mark. You don't know where you're going to put him on the line. And on top of that, maybe the Bears think that this team has so many holes, they're just not in a position where they could be trading away draft capital, because it seems like in this draft, James, they try to accumulate as much draft capital as they possibly could and add as many players to this roster.
I just want to say this, James. I don't think there was
something funny about James.
Early in the first round of this draft, there wasn't a lot. There was even being reported that nobody really wanted to move in the first round of this draft, because I think the Bears had definitely humored the idea of moving up or down, and there's just a lot of reports that nobody was really. If the Bears had a choice to do either, I think it was only moved back because players or teams wanted Colston Loveland. I think the Bears, actually, it's ironic. I think the Bears' only opportunity to make any trade in that draft was to go backwards, because there was teams calling them about Colston Loveland. That was the player that we heard players or teams were willing to move up for. I don't think the Bears were going to get high enough to draft a Will Campbell. You saw the Jaguars. You saw what it cost them to move up just once or three spots to get Travis Hunter. So it was going to be really hard and cost you a hell of a lot to try to get a Will Campbell. And Calvin Banks, I think, was still available in the Bears draft. They didn't have to move up for him at all. They could have drafted him. So clearly, like Kyle said, they didn't believe in that kid. There's something there they didn't like, for sure.
I do think Calvin Banks will ultimately end up being a guard in the NFL.
I think Calvin Banks James, I think Calvin Banks and Will Campbell are both going to be phenomenal football players. I
think Will Campbell will stay at tackle. I think Calvin Banks will not be the guard. But
that remains. Let me say this real quick, Kyle. He says Justin Fields is not a QB no matter what wide receiver you threw at him. I don't know if you know this, but go look at his first 4 weeks last year in fantasy. I mean, you might change your mind a little bit.
I'm with you.
I think everybody's capable of learning. I don't think Justin Fields is the best quarterback in the NFL, and I think he is very slow in his progressions. But I do think he can get better. I mean, we saw it with Sam Darnold. We saw it with Geno Smith. I mean, guys, some people are just slower learners than others. Like, if after Geno Smith's first 2 seasons of the NFL, would you have said this guy looks like he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL? If after Sam Darnold's first 4 seasons of the NFL, would you have said this guy looks like he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL? No, absolutely not. But it remains to be seen. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to Justin Fields and the Jets there. I think he's in a tough situation with a defensive coach, but we'll see.
Let's keep this live interaction going, because I like that these chats pouring in now, guys. Track says 3 ways to upgrade a team: trade, free agency, and finally the draft. The Bears did all 3. I agree with that. The trade, especially, guys, to me, the biggest thing this offseason was acquiring Joe Thuney. That I think that's going to make an impact on your entire offensive line, not just the left guard position. And then Laz says, biggest move the Bears made this offseason was overhauling the entire coaching staff. Yes, and that is something, again, you have to credit your new head coach for. Ben Johnson enticed these guys.
Yeah, and if you guys notice, from Ben Johnson to the offensive line to the tight end and wide receiver taken in the draft, it's all about Caleb Williams. It was all about Caleb.
And Jonah Jackson actually said, why wouldn't I want to come? Because they said, did you want to play in Chicago? I know, Ben Johnson was your former coach. Obviously, you want to see play under Ben Johnson again. But he said, I think that Caleb Williams is a championship waiting to happen. That's what Jonah Jackson said. And Ferris says, Laz, are you chatting in here, Jay?
Yeah.
That's you. So guys, I do want to get into one more. I do want to talk a little bit about something, guys. A player that we're pretty familiar with here in the NFC North was cut by the Green Bay Packers last week. Jay Alexander. He was at one point the highest paid defensive back in the NFL. I think he made 2 Pro Bowls before he started to suffer a lot of recurring injuries. He was just signed by the Baltimore Ravens, guys, who had, to me, one of the best secondaries in the NFL already, just because Kyle Hamilton is a top 5 player at the position, if you ask me. And then you have Marlon Humphrey there as well. They just drafted Malachi Starks, who was, when early in the offseason, was projected as the number 1 safety in the draft. He kind of fell behind. His name will escape me if somebody remembers it. The safety who ended up going first off the board.
Malachi Starks.
Malachi Starks was projected as the best safety in the draft. Human Yord, yeah. And then Malachi Starks ended up being the second safety taken off the board to Baltimore. And now they just added Jay Alexander, guys. And compared to the Bears, where we know who are probably a top 3 unit at this position, where are we seeing this Ravens team? And Kyle, we've talked a lot about the Ravens on this network. We've talked a lot about the Ravens' potential to win a Super Bowl, and Lamar Jackson can never do it. Does this increase the Ravens' chances if they get a healthy Jair Alexander?
If they get a healthy Jair Alexander, I don't believe Jair Alexander is going to finish the season. Now, when Jair Alexander is playing and healthy, he definitely makes this secondary the best secondary in football. I mean, the fact that Kyle Hamilton is now paired with Malachi Starks is absolutely insane. I mean, this might be
Who's
one of
the
the best.
first? The Bears?
No, you mean the best
Eagles?
secondary? The
Yeah, the
Eagles.
Eagles.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are probably the best secondary of football. I put the Bears top 3 though for sure. And the Bears, there's a lot of question marks on the Bears. Can Jaquan Brisker stay healthy? Can Tyreek Stevenson get his head out of his ass? I mean, that remains to be seen. I think that the Bears will get that stuff figured out, and they will ultimately look like a very good secondary in the NFL.
Then you got the Broncos added Judd.
Yeah, the
Abrams.
Broncos to me are probably number 1. But the problem with the Broncos is the safeties are not. I mean, they're good, but they're not of the caliber of Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks. Man, this is the best safety tandem in the NFL, and then Byron Murphy might be the best nickel corner in the NFL. So if Jair Alexander's health when he's healthy and he's on the field, that's the best secondary in football, because this might be the best safety tandem we've seen in the last 50 years. Think of a better one.
Starks is going to be a really good football
Kyle
player.
Hamilton should not have fallen to 16th in the draft. That was ridiculous. That guy there's no reason that he should have fallen to the Baltimore Ravens. It seems like the Ravens and Eagles, this always happens to them. All these guys, it's just a position that many people don't need, and somehow the best
Andrew
one of that
Makuba
position
went to the
falls.
Eagles, by the way, the third best safety in the draft.
Andrew Makuba's a stud.
To add to Cooper,
But Bernard,
when you had Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
I'll tell you this: that Broncos second or corner tandem. That's not even a question. That is the best corner tandem in the NFL. It's not even a question. There's nobody who could even compete with them. I think they allowed less than 190 receiving yards a game last year, and they drafted the best corner in the draft. To throw on the Denver Broncos is going to be like pulling teeth. Not to mention the Denver Broncos offense is only going to get better. The Denver Broncos are going to be a very good football team. And Brendan, we've talked about on this podcast before. There's a chance they win that division. I know it's tough to say that when they're in the same division as the Kansas City Chiefs, but man, where did the Denver Broncos? Where's the weakness? Where's the weakness? I don't see it. They have the most sacks. They have the second. I said on this show, most sacks in the NFL.
I believe they win the AFC West, which, guys, we know is going to be one of the best divisions in football, because you have Pete Carroll, you have Sean Payton, you have Andy Reid. I mean, you have Jim Harbaugh. This is just a really, really quality coach division of football, and I still think the Sean Payton Broncos make it out on top. Guys, is there anybody else you think might have a fantasy impact on the Chicago Bears?
Well, we were talking about Kyle Monangai maybe later in the year. We'll see how he comes along if Roshan falls out. I think you're going to touch on Burden a lot more coming up here in the week. So tune into that, guys. That'll be a good one. Not really. I mean, I don't think any of the wide receivers do. Maybe their kicker, Carlos Santos might actually have some value here. Yeah, if they're driving down the field a lot and they're, maybe not as efficient in the red zone as I hope they are, might be kicking a lot of field goals too, which is still going to be points for you. So,
Jay,
if you saw injuries to DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, then I think Zacchaeus could be a guy you could plug and play as wide receiver 3 for a couple of weeks. But no, not like starting, not to draft. Maybe to pick up off the waiver wire at some point.
Jay, are you stashing a player like Monangai with the potential? I mean, is this a guy that you're considering? And like you say, you're talking about taking a player with the last pick in your draft. Is this a guy?
I'm putting him on my watch list.
Yes, I won't draft him because I think there's so many good rookie running backs this year that I'm probably going to focus on more than
RJ Harvey's, the Caleb Johnson.
I agree with you. There's going to be a lot of. I agree with you. There's a lot of running backs that are going to improve the units that we saw last season, right? With the Broncos, we expect better running from the Cleveland Browns. We expect better running from, the Raiders. Good Lord, was there anything worse than that Raiders backfield last season?
What's up, Melon Smasher?
I mean, I had the starting Raiders, like 3 different starting Raiders running backs at some point in the season, and none of them accumulated.
Well, I mean, you talk about the biggest disappointment. I mean, Yahoo had Zamir White as like running back number 8.
I drafted him. That
guy is dog shit. Like absolutely useless in the NFL. That guy should not be rostered ever.
That's a jag, James. That's just a guy. Yeah. That's a guy who's working at a Walmart, man.
Yeah, but Alexander Madison had a couple. We got
Melon Smasher in the house. What's up, Melon Smasher?
Alexander Madison had a couple weeks where he was like somewhat productive, but it had to be against like the worst running back defenses in the NFL. Yeah, Ashton Jeanty is going to make that team look a lot different than they did last year, and so is Pete Carroll. Yeah, I actually expect the Oakland Raiders or the Las Vegas Raiders to have some capable fantasy players. Obviously, Brock Bowers will probably be the first tight end drafted. right? Or
Oh, yeah.
Trey McBride,
100%.
or Trey McBride, or 1 and 2.
100%. I want to give a big shout out to Vizzo Joe. Vizzo Joe, once again, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And he says, big up to you guys for pumping out quality content during the off season. Man, that
No, you
means
know
a
what?
lot to us.
Big up to you, Vizzo Joe, for being here all
big
the
up to
time
you,
and
buddy.
being a great listener and being always putting comments out there, always making the show more interesting. Everybody, James, Mellon, Smasher, even the Bears trolls, we get some of those guys in here, some Lions fans, some Viking fans.
Oh, I love when the Lions fans.
It makes it
It
fun,
is
man. It
actually
really
fun.
does. We appreciate them joining us too. Laz, Bernard Trax Hyatt, Amphirius. Who am I missing, guys? Darius was here early.
Ron
Dustin
was
joined
in
the
here.
chat for a little bit. Sean came on the show on a beach in Florida, so we appreciate him taking the time to do that. Sean also put the show together for us today, guys, so really appreciate all the work Sean does. Phil, obviously, we'll never forget Bears fan for life. He showed up to our live draft party. He's a big fan of ours, big fan of his. Erica, always here, always loyal listener, always good in the comments. We appreciate all you guys so much. Thank you. We appreciate and everybody watching. We have 46. At one point, we had over 50 watching live, guys. If you're watching on Twitter, please go over to our YouTube channel, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. It helps us out so much. If you guys want us to talk about anything particular in the coming weeks, obviously it's kind of a dead time in the NFL. If you guys want any questions answered, feel free to stick them in that chat. We'll be more happy to address them at some point. And like Jason said, you guys, Brandon and Dustin are going to talk a lot about Luther Burden tomorrow and talk about maybe his fantasy upside or even just him as a Bears wide receiver, where he fits in on this team, what week he could actually start making an impact for this team. So stay tuned tomorrow.
We're gonna dive deep,
minimum.
guys, into what was reported as character concerns by the scouting reports. I want to take a real deep dive into that and tell you why the scouts were and NFL GMs were a little hesitant to draft this guy. He was projected a first overall pick a year ago. The first overall receiver in the draft a year ago. He fell all the way to the second round, and I think there was like 6 receivers drafted before Luther Burden. So yeah, we're going to kind of tell the background of that story and why it occurred and whether or not the Bears made the right move and draft him in the second round, 39th pick in the draft. Sean?
Yeah, well, I mean, Mount Smasher, when Poles got here, his receiving core was Equanimous St. Brown, Byron Pringle, and with Nipsa Webster, I think, was on the team.
Keneal Harry.
Keneal Harry.
What was that guy's first name?
And he was clearing a bunch of dead cap. When the Vikings GM got there, they had Justin Jefferson. That is alone itself is enough to be a good team in the NFL. So.
I do agree with a lot of things that Mellon Smasher. I'm with you on some of the things you just said. Rome Odunze 100% needs to be this guy. He needs to be that guy. And I love DJ Moore, but Rome Odunze needs to be better. Rome Odunze needs to be a top 10 receiver
to be better
for the majority of his. Yes, he needs to be a top 10 receiver for the majority of his career. This is a top 10 pick.
He's a first round pick, guy, so he gets the 5th-year option. He's going to be here for 5 years. You hope to God that Rome Odunze is one of the best players in the NFL. He's going to be.
And I don't expect a better than Justin Jefferson. That's not my expectation, but I expect him to be the second best receiver in this NFC North division. I expect him to be better than Amon-Ra St. Brown. I expect the 9th overall pick in the draft to make that kind of impact in the NFL.
Dead cap that's already here is there's nothing you could do about it. I mean, if you're paying a guy that's already been traded when you got here, there's nothing you could do about that dead cap. You have to just eat it. And then on top of it,
I'm not going to say anything about Poles money management.
You're right. Clearing cap
he's a master at contract.
Yeah, and it is easy to do in the NFL, James. You're right, but I mean, who wanted to take Khalil Mack's contract? Who wanted to take a contract of $148 million for a guy who was aging and was often injured? It was signed by Ryan Pace. I mean, there's nothing that Ryan Poles could do about that.
James has a question that usually lights this show on fire, guys. So let's do it. Who do you think will be our left tackle next season?
I think it'll be Trapilo. I think it's going to be Trapilo this year.
Do you think that's the best of the worst? Do you think Trapilo is a quality left tackle?
All right, Brandon, wait, real quick.
I'm sorry. I gotta see him play first.
I don't mean to interrupt the conversation, but I want to see your guys' reaction to this.
Jordan Anderson's better than Rome.
Jaden Reed is better than Rome Odunze. Mellon.
Well, I mean, he is like in his past production, but like as a future prospect.
So you want to see Jaden Reed's stat line for last year?
But I mean, like as a future prospect, there's no way. And listen, man, I love Jaden Reed. I'm a Michigan State guy. I root for the Spartans. I mean, I'm an Illinois guy, but I root for the Spartans. I liked Jaden Reed a lot, the same as I liked Kenneth Walker coming out of there. But Jaden Reed is a very diverse football player. He can do a lot of different things. You can give him the ball out of the backfield. He can return some kicks. As a receiver, as a pure receiver, I don't even put him in like the top 20.
Guys, in his last 5 weeks, these are his reception totals for the last 5 weeks of the season. Yeah, last 5. 0, 5, 3, 1, 2. Those are his reception totals.
Yeah,
for the
no,
last
he's a boomer
Jaden
bust
Reed
player
is a
in regards to
ghost.
fantasy for sure.
Jaden Reed is a ghost. He had 857 yards last year. That was his second year in the NFL.
And Melon Smasher, I think
Odunze is going to destroy that number this year.
and I think Melon Smasher that Matthew Golden will carve himself out as the best receiver on the Green
If
Bay
Jaden Reed
Packers.
was
It's
so
a
good,
really
they wouldn't be
quality
drafting
football.
multiple receivers, man.
Matthew
First
Golden's a
three
really
of the
good
two of the
football player.
first 3 picks were receivers, man.
Yeah.
Jaden Reed
Because
is going to finish as the number 3
As
receiver.
the running back said,
Packers,
Mr. Josh Jacobs,
when
we
these
don't
guys
have a
get
number
going.
1 wide receiver. The Bears are like, I don't know which one is going to be our number 1 receiver because they could, anybody could be. That's a
Yeah, I
much
mean,
different situation.
if you sent DJ Moore back to the Panthers, he becomes the number 1 receiver. If you sent Rome Odunze over
The
to
Panthers,
the Titans, you sent Rome Odunze over to the Titans, he's their number one
Yeah.
receiver.
Yeah.
You send Luther Burden over to the Browns, there's a chance he's their number 1 receiver. You send Jaden Reed to any team in the
Jerry
NFL,
Jeudy's
and he's
Jerry
not their
Jeudy
number 1
became a
receiver.
pretty good player on that
Jaden
team.
Reed has a very particular skill set. That's the problem with Jaden Reed. He's not like a guy who's you can just do everything.
He
With.
will
He can play the
find
slot,
you.
he can play the outside,
And he will kill.
not that guy, man. Jaden Reed's really good at dumping the ball off to
Let's
him
do
and
the
he's
same
getting
thing,
yards
man.
after the catch. But I'm not putting him up against the best corner in the NFL at 50-50 balls, 50 yards down the field.
He's an athlete,
That's
man.
insane.
He serves a purpose. I wish the Bears had a player like that, and I'm hoping Luther Burden can be because he's a guy who you just want the ball in his damn hands. But in regards to the dynamic of playing the position and running routes and creating separation, I don't put him in the top 20. I don't. I can't bring myself to do that, man. I think Jordan Addison's a much better player at the position than Jaden Reed is. Much better player at the position than Jaden Reed is.
Jordan Addison could be number 1 on every team in the NFL except for the Vikings or the Bengals.
Right.
But I think and guys, this is not based on what he's done. And Ryan Poles didn't make any mistake. There was no mistake made here in drafting Rome Odunze where he was. If you look at Rome Odunze's skill set, if you actually watched the Washington
he had
team,
1,600 yards his last year.
the team that
1,600 yards.
The Washington team that Polk, who the Patriots drafted, Jalen McMillan, who the Buccaneers drafted, and Rome Odunze, who the Bears drafted. If you look at those receivers, they were really fucking good, and Rome was worlds ahead of the other two. I mean, and look at Jalen McMillan. Look what Jalen McMillan did last year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when he was forced to play well after Godwin got injured. Now, Rome Odunze was twice as good as Jalen McMillan on that Washington football team. So, I mean, this is the potential this kid has. He is a really good football player. I think he had the highest contested catch rate.
Potential to catch 1,600 yards.
He had the highest contested catch rate over the previous 3 seasons in the NCAA. I know that as well. So, I mean, like I said, this is a guy who, like you said, Kyle, at the peak of his height, like the peak of where the ball is, this guy can go up and get it. He's going to get it over a lot of people in this upcoming season. I truthfully believe that. But Melon Smasher, you also got to be patient. This is a rookie, guys. He was a rookie last year. You've got to give this guy some time to develop into a pro football player.
Year 2 for wide receivers is key.
That's what we're talking about with Colston Loveland. Like, just don't count Colston Loveland out just because he's not better than Cole Kmet year 1. This is a learning process, guys. There's a lot that goes in the NFL. If everybody could play in the NFL, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Count him out if he's not a top 10 pick. I mean,
a lot of amazing athletes in the world who couldn't make it in the NFL. It's just
I think that's a problem too, guys. Is these guys are drafted top 10 overall, Colston Love and Rome Odunze, so people just expect that kind of production right out the gates, and it's just not the way it works. I mean, I could see
that's the problem with top 10
have a
picks.
really bad season.
It's top 10 picks. Every time a top 10 pick is drafted, everybody in the world's like, "Did you see his first game in the NFL? That guy looked like shit." Well, yeah, no shit. He's playing guys who've been in the NFL for 5 years, and like Jason said a couple weeks ago, this is the 0.0001% of guys good enough to play football for a living. Of course, a guy in his first week ever playing the NFL is not going to look good. You got to give him. I'd say, what do they say, Jason? I think the professionals say, like the experts say, 35 games is what you should give a guy before you determine what you believe he is in the NFL.
Right.
35
it's
games.
No different than any other sport.
2 full seasons, basically, right? Yeah, 2 full seasons before you determine this guy sucks or this guy's going to be good.
You can be a natural like PCA and be a great hitter, but you're going to need probably 100 at-bats before you're great.
Unless he's Bayless Jones.
I'm guilty.
2 full quarters, and you should have.
Yeah, I'm guilty, Jason. You can ask Sean. I after 30 games or 40 games of PCA, I'm like, oh my God, this guy looks like he's never had an at bat. Now he might be the best player in Major League Baseball.
James is bringing the heat back with Melon Smash. You see, James, now you're more in tune here. He says Rome Odunze is the next Julio Jones. God,
I hope so, James.
Julio Jones at the peak of his career was a freak. That guy
not only
was
that, guys, but Rome
incredible.
Odunze is also a very smart guy. He's not just a good footballer; he's very intelligent.
And
always. It doesn't matter what you do in the world. If the smarter, the better.
Invisible Joe says Ben Johnson was gushing over Rome when he was hired. He's left to use him anywhere. Guys, if you saw Randall L's interview when he became the wide receiver coach of the Bears, he was asked about Rome Odunze, and he said flat out, "I had him ranked over Malik Neighbors. I had him ranked over Marvin Harrison Jr., and I still today believe that that's the guy that he is." So your wide receiver coach, whose job it is to make this player the best he can be, believes he's the best from that class, which was a really strong draft class.
Yes.
Foster, what's going on, man? Foster just joined us, guys. For anybody who's watching, if you haven't, Foster, who just joined us in the chat, guys, he is on a podcast called the Bear Country Productions. They're live Thursday nights. Very cool stuff, man. They
do some good stuff over there, man. I never get a chance to watch live, Foster, because I'm always working, but I have watched your show, and I do appreciate you being here. I appreciate your show, man. You guys do a really good job over there. Foster says, how many great rookies from last year? Name them. Yeah, like what? 3? Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Malik Neighbors? Oh, Bucky Irving. That's it. There's your great rookies from last year.
That's a good point. I never really, outside of the quarterbacks, like it's the quarterbacks had a good class.
Yeah, but they weren't great. I think he's talking about great guys, not good.
Well,
nobody. I guess Jaden Daniels.
Brock Bowers was the guy who.
But 6 out of 6. All right, so let's say 20. 20 out of 250.
No, and Kyle, I'll say Brock Bowers and Jaden Daniels were the only two that, to me, Bo Nix was on the fence there.
Jared Verse was.
Yeah, he's a monster. So like 3. Yeah, you had like 3 players that like you can tell.
Yeah, Melon Smash. Ladd McConkey got good at the end of the year, but if the first 6 weeks of the season, Ladd McConkey was not good.
Ladd McConkey's a stud.
He is a stud, but he wasn't great in the first 6. That's what I'm saying. That's why they need the time. Joe Alt was terrible to start the season. His PFF grades were horrendous.
And guys start off great, and then their second year is garbage.
And as good as Joe Alt. What surprised me about Joe Alt, guys, is this was the best thing to ever happen in the NFL in regards to the left tackle position, and he's playing right tackle. He's not a left tackle in the NFL.
I think they're just slowly I never question. You talk about never question what somebody does. Jim Harbaugh, I don't question anything like that. If he
Slater is one of the best. He had one of the best left tackles in football. And
Slater's going to be a free agent. I think Slater's going to be free agent at the end of this year. So you might be looking at the Bears left tackle next year if Roger Field doesn't work out. Rick and Bruce is also
certainly going to be moving to the left side of that line.
Oh, for sure. Breaking news, Bruce is also in the house, guys. He just joined the show. He said he just got home from all of his car trouble. What's up, Bruce? We appreciate you making the show here. We know
glad you made it home, Bruce. Glad you're home and safe.
I don't think Bruce has missed a show since we started 4-Star Chicago Sports, so we have to give a big shout out to him.
He missed a Thursday night, and I gave him hell for it.
Jesus, Bruce, what are you doing, man? What do you got, a life to live or something?
Yeah. Well, Bruce, I got to tell you, buying those Jeeps. Stop buying those cheap matches.
Stop buying them cheap matches.
Stay away from anything from Stellantis altogether.
Yeah, if you guys want any car advice, talk to this guy right here, Jason. He knows everything to know about cars. He's worked on cars his entire life. So.
I don't want to know any more about cars. That's how bad it is. I was thinking the other day, dude, I'm like, I've been doing this for so long. I've literally driven every car that's been made in America since like 2000. I've driven every single car. What's that?
Are you a diesel mechanic?
No, I worked at a body shop for like 25 years.
Oh, repair. Okay.
Yeah, and then
good to know, man.
He does the other side.
Shouldn't have told me.
I ain't doing body work, and I work for an insurance company now. So
yeah, Foster, I'm with you, man. I'm listen. I'm one of those guys who's all about buying stuff made in America. But you want a car that lasts for you for a really long time. You don't have to deal with constant problems. Toyota or Honda are the way to go, man.
I drive it.
Cars break down. Just make sure it's cheap to fix. That's all.
I want a Tacoma for damn.
Yeah, and change the oil. Some of these little girls that come into the bar, they're like, my oil said I change oil lights, been out for like 6 months. I'm like, that's like blood for a human being, right? Like that car is going to be absolutely screwed in 2 years.
Even if you change the oil, it's too late. You're done.
Yeah, that's bad, dude. Fellas, anything else?
No, I think there's one thing we have
to. Yeah, that was a good show.
Right, Brennan?
What's that?
It's Probably one thing we have to do real quick before we get out of here.
I'm just buying myself.
Anything you want to say before you get out of here?
Foster, it's a sickness of mine. I've had 218 vehicles since 1983. Holy shit.
Dude, Foster, I'm going to be you in like 5 years, man. Trust me. I got 4 cars now. 3 cars now. There's like 2 of us in the house.
Is there anything you guys want me to say before we get out of here?
Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up?
Shit, fuck Green Bay.
All right.
Fuck yeah.
Let's go. That a boy.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Where's
guys.
James Childress at? James, we miss you. FGB, buddy. On that note, guys, it's been a pleasure. This was fun. I never got to do this on a Wednesday before. Maybe I'll tune in. Maybe I'll tune in once or twice coming up in the next few months here when Sean gets back. We can do a
Yeah, you know what? I feel like all of our consensus for where the Bears should fall in fantasy are pretty similar, right? Like I don't think any of us were like way off what everybody else.
And I think Caleb's and guys, I think if you're aiming high and you with big expectations, Caleb Williams is your man. I think that's the guy who's going to impress you the most. I think that's the guy who's going to maybe
somebody you definitely willing to put on your stash on your benches. That would be Caleb Williams or Roma Odunze. Roma Odunze in week 9, 10, 11, 12 could be a league winner.
DJ Moore's a good one to have.
He's a good. He should go 3rd round no matter what.
He's just reliable. But I think Kyle's right with Roma Odunze. The ceiling could. Like I said, you might draft him to be your number 3. He might be your number 1 by the end of this year. So
yeah, fantasy playoffs. You could have 3 number 1s if you play your cards right. Especially if you draft Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and Roma Odunze.
This was fun, gentlemen. Thanks to everybody in the chat, guys. Please hit that like and subscribe. Like Kyle said, if you're watching on Twitter, just jump over to YouTube and hit that like for us. And it was more than a pleasure to fill in for Sean. I'm glad Sean's coming back next week, guys. He's enjoying himself.
Thanks, Brennan.
And we will be back tomorrow for the bare minimum at 11:30 p.m. The late night show, guys. Like I said, we're going to dive into Luther. It's Luther Burden, a burden to the Chicago Bears. We're going to dive more into his character issues. Sean and Kyle will me and Kyle. Yeah, look at that. Me and Kyle will be back on Saturday for the Northside 9, talking some Cubs. Kyle's going to have to carry that one. Foster, we expect you in the chat. At least help me out. Give me some tips, bro. I'm watching the Cubs as much as I can, but
there's a lot to
Marquis
talk about.
kind of a
I'm going
bitch.
to do it on Saturday, but not a good – even though the Cubs won yesterday was a really bad day for the Cubs because the Red Sox basically came out and said the reason they traded Rafael Devers is because they want to be involved in the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes in the offseason. And if the Boston Red Sox are in a bidding war with the Cubs, the Cubs are not going to win that war.
It's
First
over.
of all, second of all, Brennan, Cam Smith, the guy they traded away for Kyle Tucker to the Houston Astros, had 4 hits and 2 bombs yesterday. So just not a good day for Cubs fans if you're looking towards the futures of winning championships here. Thanks a lot, Brennan.
And my girlfriend was supposed to go to the Cubs game tonight for a work event, and I kept telling her it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. That game was postponed to August. She still holds a ticket, so I'll probably be going to that game in August with her. And my work provides Cubs tickets, guys. You can pick a game off the schedule, so I'll probably be going to a game coming up soon here too. Kyle, I'll talk to you about that. Guys, been a pleasure. Jay, sorry for calling you Sean. Force of habit. I'm the Sean on this show tonight. But guys, it was fun.
We sound alike.
Yeah, you do kind of sound like you speak with the same mannerisms, man.
Fuck melanoma. I'm the mole. I'm the mole. Here comes old melanoma head.
Here comes old head. This was a pleasure, gentlemen. It's fun to do the fantasy stuff, the statistics stuff, guys. Like I said, check out that show tomorrow night, 11:30. Check out the show Northside 9, and the 4 of us, Sean, Dustin, me, Kyle, will be back on Monday night for the Hallis Hall Hangover. Jay, it's been a pleasure. I've definitely got some shorts in this show after it's over, guys. So keep your eyes out for that, guys. We'll have some shorts coming out. And we will see you tomorrow night. Thanks for everybody who joined us. Bear down.